Well, well, well. So I listened to the Jerry Jones interview this morning about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I have went over it again and again in my head, listening to Jerry Jones. And this has to be one of the most reflective, introspective interviews I've heard from Jerry Jones in a long time. As I'm listening to Jerry Jones, I hear Jerry Jones actually pouring his heart out to the Dallas Cowboy fans. And what I'm listening to when I hear Jerry Jones in this interview is I'm listening to a man who is saying that he wants redemption. He wants repentance. And he wants to give the Cowboys at least 1 or 2 more Super Bowls before he decides to hang it up. Dallas Cowboy fans, let's talk about it. We're about to talk facts. Yep. Jerry Jones. Yep. Yep. Y'all know what time it is. Let's go. Welcome, Cowboy fans and Cowboy haters alike. I'm the G, and I'm the host of Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. And if you like this video, don't forget, as you come into this live stream, please hit that like button, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know the next time we post another video or go live. And if you haven't become a channel member subscriber yet, what are you waiting on? Man, we have a lot of great content coming up this season. Now let's talk facts. Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is moving different. I've been saying this since last year. Even with this stuff with George Pickens, Jerry Jones is moving different. And I told y'all before, Jerry Jones is validating everything I said a couple of weeks ago. Everybody's wondering, why is Jerry Jones moving different? Mortality. I said this 2-3 weeks ago. Mortality. Jerry Jones admits it in this interview. Mortality. I told you this was his motivation. Jerry Jones knows he has more yesterdays than tomorrows. Jerry Jones wants to see 1 more Super Bowl before they put that dirt on that casket. Jerry Jones wants to leave a legacy. When he bought the Cowboys, they won a Super Bowl within 5 years. Jerry Jones, before he hands this all over to his family, Jerry Jones wants that Super Bowl. He wants it. And I tell you this, thank you, Jerry Jones, for getting back in front of the camera, as Brandy just mentioned in the chat. Because Stephen Jones was about to drive us all crazy. Jerry Jones brought things into more of the right perspective. He gave the Cowboys fans exactly, I believe, what they were wanting from Stephen Jones. Jerry Jones gave the Cowboy fans where he's coming from. Jerry Jones gave the Cowboy fans his plans. Jerry Jones gave the Cowboy fans, if you ask me, he gave the Cowboy fans hope. I believe Jerry Jones gave Cowboy fans hope. I already knew where Jerry Jones was coming from. I already knew where Jerry Jones was coming from. But Stephen Jones, sometimes Stephen Jones, the way he talks is just not quite right. So, this is what we're going to be talking about today. Jerry Jones combine interview. And what we're going to do as we go along, we're going to add the topics. And the first topic, off the top of my head, I remember, is George Pickens. So we're going to get this roll call in, and then we're going to get right into this interview. It's an hour-long interview, but there are some very important parts that I want to help break down for us, especially the parts about George Pickens, because I think the part about George Pickens, whether people realize it or not, I think that's the most pivotal part, or one of the most pivotal parts. But that's where we're going to go tonight. Live reaction to Jerry Jones, combine interview and repentance. Let's go, Cowboy fans. Y'all ready? Let's get it. Dominique Pittman said he can pour his heart out all he wants. To me, it ain't nothing but lip service and selling wolf tickets. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. Big Mouse Dog said, "What up, G and Cowboys Nation? What's going on with your Big Mouse Dog?" Brandy, she said, "Hey, my loves. Lord Nova, what's going on?" Bump TY5X from the 903. Hey, what's going on? I see you got Christian Parker, AKA Pimp C. Yep, that's your profile picture. Mose Logan, what's good? It is the Queen. What up, Queen? More Eddie, he said, "Gee, I don't believe Jerry Jones. Say too, I see what he says until I see the reaction. What do you do with the Dallas Cowboys?" Oh, I think Jerry's gonna do damage. I do. Demetrius Noel, blessings to you. L. Howell, what's going on? Good to see you, Lynn from the 903. Best talk on YouTube. Let's go. 72 Chevelle just pulled up to the congregation. What's up? Douglas Harrison, he said Jerry interview was fire. I thought it was too. Charles Knight, what's going on? He said, "Won't negotiate to you on the 2 first-round picks for George Pickens. It's the only way they can guarantee George Pickens won't be traded away." I'm going to give you some insight on that listening to Jerry Jones this morning. Brandy, appreciate that super chat. She said, "Jerry, get back in front of the camera. We sick of Steven." I agree. Manny Zamora, what's going on? Rodney Evans in this thing, what's going on? Rodney Evans said dirt on the casket. I'm just telling you, man. Hallelujah, salute. What's going on? I'm just telling you, man. I'm telling you, man, I've lived this as it applies to just dealing with people. Man, when people see mortality, it changes the way they look. Dagon said, "Welcome to Let's Talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Come in, hit the like button and let your opinion be heard. Also, please keep the chat clean." Yep. Appreciate your Dagons. Dolores Ennis, what's going on? Roddy Dub up in this thing. What up, Roddy Dub? Good to see you. And then it is my man, Brian Worley. Brian Worley, what's going on? All right, let's get this thing started. We'll greet others as they come in tonight. Welcome to the best chat on YouTube. Give yourselves a hand. Rodney Evans said, "Why didn't the Cowboys sign GP when they traded for him? At that time, they were talking about $25 million. Boy, Rodney Evans, you just said a mouthful. You just said a mouthful. You absolutely did. But you got to remember, Rodney, George Pickens had a feeling that he was going to put up a monster season, because George Pickens said he was not interested in negotiating a contract. That's what George Pickens said. That's why the Cowboys didn't sign him. He didn't want to. He knew he was going to put up a monster season with Dak Prescott. Frank Lawrence is in the crib. What's going on, Frank Lawrence? What's going on, Mixed Matrix? Yeah, he knew he was going to put up a monster season, man. He absolutely knew. Bass is in the house. What's going on? What's going on with you? All right. So a lot of people, they've been kind of snipping out this thing with Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones said a lot of powerful things, if you ask me. And you don't have to like Jerry Jones. I'm not mad at anybody who don't like Jerry Jones.
Everyone deserves our best deal. Like the new Sam?
Yeah, I'm not mad at anybody that doesn't like Jerry Jones. That's not, y'all already know, that's not how I kind of roll as it applies to Jerry Jones. I believe that everybody deserves an opportunity to change. I believe everybody deserves, no matter how long they've been foolish, they deserve an opportunity to change. And, when someone decides that they're going to make that change, all we can do is allow them to do it and then see what comes out in the end. And so Jerry Jones kind of begins this thing. I guess they start kind of talking about George Pickens. And this is the part of this video that was the most interesting to me, because I got the same thing from Stephen Jones. I got some of the same stuff from Jerry Jones. And if you're not catching on to what's being said about George Pickens, you're not listening very clearly. This is going to be a battle. And Jerry Jones knows this is going to be a battle. And you can tell by the things that Jerry Jones is saying. This is going to be a battle. And I do believe that the only one who can truly solve this, it's actually George Pickens. I believe that George Pickens, it all depends on what George Pickens wants to do. But George Pickens in this instance, it's up to George Pickens on whether or not he's going to make certain, whether he's going to, I don't know how to put it without saying it in a certain way, but I just want to, the best way I can put it is George Pickens is going to have to almost go against his representation in order for this to be the way the Cowboys, the way Jerry is talking about, he wants it all to be honey. The reason why Jerry is saying he wants it all to be honey is that Jerry knows that this is about to be a battle, depending upon how everybody handles this. Because right now in the beginning of this match, man, everything is all good. But as this thing drags on, it's going to turn into a battle if the Cowboys and George Pickens are not careful. Because these are the two entities that matter in the grand scheme of things. Jerry is right when he says George Pickens is the principal. It matters going forward how these two handle this. How does Pickens handle this? Because Pickens, Mulugeta doesn't work. Pickens doesn't work for Mulugeta. Mulugeta works for Pickens. So this is all going to depend upon how does George Pickens wants to handle this thing. And so I want you to hear what Jerry begins to say about George Pickens right from the beginning. And some people, I can tell by the comments they're making, they're missing what Jerry Jones is saying. I can hear very clearly what Jerry Jones is saying. Check this out.
Today, do you hope that that's a placeholder for a long-term deal?
Well, of course, it's the system in the NFL. And I did visit with George. A contribution to building this team that he was.
I want you to hear from the beginning. And this caught my ear immediately. They asked Jerry if this was simply a placeholder. And Jerry gives this long, drawn-out answer. The Bible tells us to let our yeas be yeas and our nays be nays. When somebody asks you a yes-no question, it is simple as saying yes. Jerry gives us the long version and the philosophical answer of, well, this is the system that is put in place. Because if you listen to Jerry closely, Jerry is saying something, and I don't think Jerry is saying this in code. I think he's being very, very blatant with it.
Very deserving, because in and of itself, it's a very significant attaboy relative to where we thought we would be 5 or 6 months ago. So, or however long that's been. But the bottom line is that very going to do today. I told him how excited we are that he is going to have the future with the Cowboys, that he was very deserving, because in and of itself, it's a very significant attaboy relative to where we thought we would be 5 or 6 months ago. So
now, I thought this was very intriguing when Jerry said this. Jerry seems to me to be again validating something that I told y'all yesterday. I think George Pickens surpassed everybody's expectations. I really believe he did. I believe George Pickens surpassed everybody's expectations. I mean, I think people knew George Pickens would be good. Ron Hanna, Azteca, welcome to the congregation. I think everybody knew George Pickens was going to be good. I thought George Pickens was going to be great. Nobody predicted that George Pickens was going to be an alien. When CeeDee Lamb went down, George Pickens turned to an absolute alien. George Pickens, you want to talk about somebody raising their contract stock. George Pickens, and Jerry has alluded to this twice now, where they were when George got here and what everybody was probably thinking. George raised the roof on this thing. Bottom line, George Pickens raised the roof. Because I'm going to tell you something I believe the Cowboys were doing early on, and the Cowboys are struggling with this. If you look at the early part of the season, the Cowboys were still stuck in the mode of CeeDee Lamb is the primary wide receiver. And everything's going to work through CeeDee Lamb. And George Pickens, we'll use him, but even though we said he's a number one receiver, CeeDee Lamb is still the number one receiver. And it was like the Cowboys were force-feeding CeeDee Lamb at times and not utilizing George the way they should have. Prime example, the first game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe if they get GP more involved, that GP probably would have made a bigger difference even in the first game of the season. But when you think about George Pickens exceeded the expectations, because I said this during the season, and I'm telling you it's validated. It's one thing to say George Pickens is a number one receiver. It's another thing when you get him and CeeDee Lamb on the field, and do you treat him like a number one receiver? The Cowboys were not treating George Pickens like he was a number one receiver. But when CeeDee Lamb went down, George Pickens moved into the spot of CeeDee Lamb. They moved him around. He was running different types of routes. He was in different positions lined up on the line of scrimmage, off the line of scrimmage. George Pickens went off the chain, and he exceeded. Man, I'm telling you right now, this is one of the biggest issues everybody has with George Pickens, because they were absolutely wrong. They were wrong. They were wrong about George Pickens. His attitude on the field, his attitude off the field. They were wrong about George Pickens. And so Jerry Jones is admitting George Pickens exceeded their expectations. The Cowboys, I'm telling y'all now, the Cowboys never expected in their wildest dreams that George Pickens was going to have them in a situation to where they need to maybe consider paying him more than CeeDee Lamb. They never thought that was truly going to be an issue. But I'm going to tell you something, man. When God has a plan, nobody can stop it. When God has a plan, nobody can stop it. It was inevitable. Now that we all can look back in hindsight, it was inevitable that George Pickens was going to be at this point. It was inevitable. When you look at the quarterbacks that he played with, when you look at the team that he played on, run first, defensive team, offensive coordinator, nobody knows who he is, basically. It was inevitable the moment he got with Dak Prescott. And I'm telling you, just like clockwork, CeeDee Lamb gets hurt, and George Pickens gets his opportunity, and George Pickens goes off. And George Pickens goes on an absolute tear of what? 8, 9, 10 games in a row? George killed it. George absolutely killed it. They never expected George Pickens to have him in that situation. And this is what Jerry is alluding to. Hey, man, where we were 5 or 6 months ago, he's up the ante on us. Jerry said, we didn't expect this man to be where he is now. No, it is so scary what George Pickens did, because George Pickens was so good that George Pickens started a controversy that he didn't even try to start. That people were saying that he was better than CeeDee Lamb. And the lady, I forgot her name, we were listening to her yesterday. I'm not telling you I agree or disagree, but what I'm telling you is, she said that when you ask people around the league, they will tell you that George Pickens is better than CeeDee Lamb. None of us have to agree with that. None of us have to agree with that. I'm just telling you. She said when you ask people around the league, they said the same thing. They said he was better. And the reason why they're saying he's better is they're looking at the fact that they see a ceiling that is still higher than what he reached. So Jerry is absolutely right in this confession. George Pickens put them in this situation because he earned it, because he was that good.
However long that's been.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, man. Freddie El Truco in the crib. What's going on? Let me read these super chats. Start going next. He said, just when they make you nervous, they pick you right back up. This is not right. This is not right, Jones boys. Stop with the emotional roller coaster. Man, Jerry pulled on them heartstrings in this thing, man. Jerry said, Steven, you ain't doing this right. Steven said, hey, man, I'm going to pull on them heartstrings. Star Gardner said, gee, watching the defense combine yesterday, it opened up my eyes to what kind of good talent we can get even if we miss on the main guys. I'm excited. Star Gardner, how many times have you heard me say in the last 3 weeks, the Cowboys can't miss? The Cowboys can't miss in this draft. I don't care what anyone says. They cannot miss. The Cowboys don't need to trade for Max Crosby. The Cowboys don't need to trade with anybody. The Cowboys are telling everybody that if you come up and try to get that number 20 pick, you better get ready because you're going to give up a first and a second. That's what they're telling everybody. Yeah, we're open for business. But if you want that number 20, you're going to give us a player and you're going to give us a player, probably your first round pick and your third round pick. The Cowboys ain't playing, man. They're not playing. But I'm telling us, man, George Pickens earned the right to be where he is right now.
Yeah, but the bottom line is that it was a privilege to be able to, frankly, let him know that he was going to have certainly that kind of interest in us. I expressed to him how valuable a part of the team that we think he is, I think he is, the kind of contribution he can make. He'll continue to get better working with Dak and working with the other receivers. So we talked about the future. We both reiterated how good it was for him to be here, and know that what we have in place assures that he will be here. As far as negotiation of terms and length.
Now, I'm thinking this is kind of where the disconnect is. And y'all tell me if this is kind of where y'all are. I think this is where the disconnect is, though. And this is the question that Jerry is, Jerry is evading this question. Is the tag a placeholder? Jerry will not commit to saying the tag is a placeholder. I got a feeling the Cowboys are going to try to get a deal done again. And the reason why I think they're going to try to get a deal done again is because they're going to use whether or not a team comes up and makes an offer for George Pickens, or this is what we're assuming. They're going to use against George Pickens or as a bargaining chip whether or not somebody comes up next week and says, we want to make an offer for George Pickens. And it seems to me the Cowboys are banking on nobody making an offer. And if nobody makes an offer, because I've been hearing everybody saying, and I really went back and thought about this and slept on this and thought about it today, and I've been thinking about it all day, because I'm going to push back on people who are saying that if nobody calls the Cowboys about George Pickens, or if no one makes an offer for George Pickens, that means then the market has been set for George Pickens, that nobody was willing to pay him $30 million. And so that means that the Cowboys would checkmate David Mulugeta and George Pickens in saying, well, nobody came forward and tried to offer 2 first-round picks. Nobody came forward and was willing to offer any money to get George Pickens. So basically, we can say, George Pickens, you're going to play on the franchise tag, and we'll make a decision at the end of the season on whether or not we want to give you an extension. But I'm going to tell you right now, that is not the right way to think about this. That is not the right way to think about this. They actually don't have George Pickens. They don't have David Mulugeta in a tight spot. Because I thought about this today. David Mulugeta actually has a different argument, or he could come back with this argument. Listen to the argument that I'm going to give you right now. A to Z Sports made a very important point yesterday, and they don't even realize it. And a lot of people don't realize they're making a point for David Mulugeta and George Pickens that they may not realize. If no one comes forth and makes an offer for George Pickens, one, is it because they don't want to offer him the money, or is it because they don't want to give up 2 first-round picks? But I got one even better for you. What's the threshold? What's the threshold of the offer that would make the Cowboys say we're going to take the 2 first-round picks? What if somebody comes along and says we're going to offer $30 million? Now, A to Z Sports made this point. If I believe the Cowboys are going to match a $30 million offer, I'm not making that offer because it's not that I don't think George Pickens is worth $30 million. I just think the Cowboys would come back. I believe the Cowboys would actually come back and say, we'll match that offer because now we can get George Pickens on a $30 million per year deal. And so teams aren't offering that. So to say that somebody wouldn't pay George Pickens $31, $32, $33, or $34 million, that argument actually doesn't hold up, because David Mulugeta could just come back and say, no, I actually had people who were willing to offer that, but they just pretty much figured that you were going to counter that. See, people got to understand when you're an agent, because I'm trying to think in the mind of an agent. See, if I'm an agent, I got to think like a lawyer. I'm thinking like a lawyer. And I'm already looking at every argument you're going to make, and I'm already going to have a counter argument. And so if no one comes and makes an offer for George Pickens, that doesn't give the Cowboys the leg up the way that people think that they do. Let me read D Block in the house. What's up, D Block? Welcome to the congregation today. D Block? Nope. D Block, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you on this. I am going to respectively disagree with you on this. D Block, do you not realize how many teams who have great quarterbacks and they don't have wide receivers? We can actually make an argument, D Block. You do know we can make an argument. The Kansas City Chiefs don't have that wide receiver. No, they don't. The Kansas City Chiefs don't have that wide receiver. They really don't have that Tyreek Hill. Ever since Tyreek Hill left, the Chiefs have been looking for that wide receiver. We went over this yesterday, D-Block. In the grand scheme of things, D-Block, no. There are teams out there, competitive teams, that do not have that receiver, that George Pickens that they're looking for. They don't have that wide receiver. I got a list of them right here. We covered this yesterday. No, the Buffalo Bills do not have that George Pickens receiver. They don't have that George Pickens receiver. They don't have that CeeDee Lamb receiver. They don't actually have that number one receiver. The Jacksonville Jaguars don't have that receiver. The Denver Broncos don't have that receiver. The Raiders, we know they don't have it, but they're not going to get George Pickens, I believe. The Saints, I don't think it's going to happen. The Browns I don't think it's going to happen because I think he wants to go to a competitor. D-Block, I'm going to tell you right now, there is a team right now that I think, just depending upon what they want to do, D-Block, the 49ers do not have that. They do not have that wide receiver. They don't. They don't have that wide receiver. No. The best quarterbacks out there don't have that wide receiver. They don't. George Pickens, I'm telling you right now, I don't think it's going to happen. There are about 5 teams out there, though, that they could absolutely use George Pickens' services. And those first round picks wouldn't bother them. Because you think about it like this. The Buffalo Bills. We talked about this yesterday, D-Block. When you look at where the Buffalo Bills are drafting, when you look at where they're drafting, let's think about this for a second. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, bro, I'm drafting at number 26. I don't care about giving up a first round pick. I'm just being honest with you. I don't care about giving up a first round pick, man. I'm drafting at 26. The Houston Texans, they got a wide receiver. He ain't George Pickens. The Houston Texans wide receiver is not George Pickens. If I'm the Houston Texans, what do I care about giving up a number 28 pick? So? I don't care about giving up a number 28 pick because if you give them George Pickens, if you give C.J. Stroud, George Pickens, and his other wide receiver, and Dalton Schultz, and give them a running game, they already got a defense. You think they care about the number 1 pick from next year when that number 1 pick will probably be number 32? Man, we think this is a chess move. It's not. It's not the chess move we think it is. It's not the chess move we think it is. Because I'm telling you, there are teams out here that if they are really serious, why wouldn't you give up a number 1 pick? 2 number 1 picks? What do those matter to you? You're the New England Patriots. They don't have a wide receiver like George Pickens. They're trapped in number 31. Who cares if they're giving up number 31? And they plan on being back in the same position next year. They don't care about a number 1 pick this year and next year. Man, those are 31. That's number 31 and 32. This is not the move we think it is, man. And I'm telling you right now, Jerry knows too. Jerry knows too. And this is why when you listen to Jerry knows this is going to be a battle. Jerry knows this is going to be the battle. This is the battle right here. Because I'm telling you right now, just imagine this. What if the Seattle Seahawks, what if they want what the Cowboys have? What if they want Jackson Smith and Jigba and George Pickens? They got the salary cap to do it. What would it matter to the Seattle Seahawks to give up a number 32 pick? What would it matter? What would it matter? They're 32 this year. They'll be 32 next year. What do they care? This was why the Green Bay Packers was willing to give up the picks for Micah Parsons. we do realize that the Green Bay Packers actually thought they were going to be in the Super Bowl this year. They thought Michael Parsons was a Super Bowl move. And so the picks that the Cowboys got, they thought those were going to be 31-32. They thought they were going to be in the Final Four of the playoffs. So they thought those were going to be 29, 30, 31 to 32. They didn't care about giving up that pick because even the following year they say, and we still going to have Micah. They don't care about those picks because they're going to be somewhere of 29 or later. We're looking at this, and I know how people are looking at this, but I'm telling you how Jerry, man, do not think for a second that Jerry don't see what I'm saying. Because when you listen to what Jerry explains, Jerry knows this can evolve into World War III for the Cowboys. And the only one who's actually going to be able to stop it is George Pickens. He's the only one to stop it. We got to stop thinking that there are teams out there who don't need George Pickens because there are teams out there that absolutely need a wide receiver like George Pickens. I can make the argument the Chargers need that wide receiver. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Green Bay hadn't already gave up their 2 first-round picks, I got a feeling that Green Bay, once again, would probably be going for a wide receiver like George Pickens. Why? Because he's better than everything that they have. We don't have to agree. I'm giving you the facts. No, there are a lot of franchise quarterbacks out there that don't have that luxury that Dak Prescott even has over CeeDee Lamb. Dak has CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. Buffalo, they are still searching for a wide receiver. And the rumor is Philadelphia is going to trade A.J. Brown to the Buffalo Bills. So what if the Philadelphia Eagles trade A.J. Brown to the Buffalo Bills? Who's to say the Philadelphia Eagles couldn't make a hard run? Howie Roseman couldn't make a hard run at a George Pickens. We're thinking like Dallas Cowboy fans. But there are teams out there who feel like they're one player away, and they feel like they are a player like George Pickens away from really making a big splash in this league and getting to the Super Bowl. And I'm telling you right now, I don't think it's going to happen. But I can tell you who it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if the 49ers make an inquiry to David Mulugheta about George Pickens. It would not surprise me. It's definitely not going to shock me if the Cleveland Browns do it. I'm actually expecting the Cleveland Browns to do it. I just don't think he'll sign with the Cleveland Browns. I'm expecting the Broncos to do it. I'm expecting the Jaguars to do it. I'm expecting Buffalo to do it. I'm expecting the Chargers to do it, the Houston Texans to do it. Why wouldn't they do it? First round picks matters to a team that's finishing 7-10 and 7-9-1. This is where, see, we're thinking like, again, let me give you an analogy. Poor people think like poor people. And wealthy people think like wealthy people. We right now are thinking like poor people. We need draft picks. So we're saying, oh man, if they want 2 first round, if they'll give us 2 first round draft picks, send away George Pickens. We're not mad. Why? Because we're not thinking in our minds that we're going to go to the Super Bowl this year. That maybe we'll go not this season, but next season. But a team like the Houston Texans who's got a defense like they do, they're thinking, hold on a second. C.J. Stroud, contract season. George Pickens will change the life of C.J. Stroud. George Pickens will change life for C.J. Stroud. You don't think George Pickens will change life for Brock Purdy? Change life? Change life for Josh Allen, who was throwing to Brandon Cooks? Man, I'm telling you, we're naive thinking about this. We're thinking like poor people think. These teams who are already drafting 25 and later, what is a first round pick to them? Name me the wide receiver in this draft that could replace George Pickens. And I'm not talking about 2 seasons down the line. I'm talking about right now. There's not a receiver in this draft that's even close to George Pickens. And if you were thinking about getting a wide receiver in this draft, What do you care about giving up a first round pick? And if you are a team like the Houston Texans, you got a lot of you got a lot of your squad together. You don't mind paying George Pickens that money because you know that is going to pay dividends. I'm telling this, man, we're thinking like poor people. That's why we're so quick to say, oh, they give us 2 first-round picks. Why? Because we don't think we're going to the Super Bowl this year. We don't think we're going to the Super Bowl. And we look at those picks as building blocks. But teams who are already at that point, they don't look at a George Pickens as a building block. They look at a George Pickens as that's that player that's going to get us to the promised land. Rombowski, what's going on? He said, where I'd counter argue, G, is that when deciding between exclusive or non-exclusive, you do so already knowing behind the scenes what teams are already willing to offer is part of the negotiation skills. Big Rombowski, I don't agree with you because we're talking about the Cowboys. I don't agree. And if I'm David Mulugeta, I guarantee you David Mulugeta is keeping that feather in his cap. David Mulugeta is keeping that feather in his cap. And we're going to see. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. I think a lot of teams, I think the Cowboys are banking on nobody doing this. D. Magda, let me hit you with D. Magda again. I know where Jerry is going with this. And Jerry already knows that he doesn't have the checkmate on George Pickens like so many of us believe. You're saying you don't agree. They can make an offer. The Cowboys can match it. So, D. Magna, let's be real. You think the Cowboys are matching $38 million for George Pickens? This is the part we're missing. Do we not realize Jerry Jones implied in this interview that they already know there's a number for George Pickens that David Mulugeta camp wants. They already know what that number is. The Magda, do you realize what they're saying? They don't want to pay that number. Because if they wanted to pay that number, they'd have already paid that number. They don't want to pay that number. That number is already out there. They don't want to pay that number. What the Cowboys are trying to do is get that number they want. That's what the Cowboys are doing. If David Mulugeta was talking about 34, 33, 32, man, the Cowboys probably would have already jumped on that number. No. Pickens is at a number. And if we all don't know this, then maybe we don't understand what's going on. The number where George Pickens is right now, Cowboys don't want to pay it. They don't. They don't want to pay it. They don't want to pay it. Bottom line. They don't want to pay it. D Block said Jerry ain't going to sign him, G. D Block, let me tell you something. This is where me and you are about to agree. I'm not saying that Jerry is not going to sign George Pickens. But D Block, are you ready for this? I said this yesterday. Do y'all know we've been programmed? Whether we realize it or not, we've all been programmed in the George Pickens negotiation. We've been programmed. We've been told that George Pickens, he doesn't deserve a contract. The Cowboys need to try him out one more year. Make him play on the tag. We've been programmed. George Pickens, even trade value, it's not better than a second-round pick, according to Nick Harris, the information that he got. We've been programmed that people keep saying this, that, and the other about George Pickens to the point that watch what the Cowboys do. They put the non-exclusive tag on George Pickens, and people have been programmed to the point that they think that getting 2 first-round picks for George Pickens is better than having George Pickens. This is one of the craziest things I've ever heard. We got people who are more enamored by a bird in the bush than a bird in the hand. George Pickens is one of the most dynamic wide receivers in the game. And we're saying we would rather take 2 picks, 2 first-round picks. And what if a team like the Seattle Seahawks, or what if a team like Denver, what if a team who's drafting at number 25 through 32, what if one of those teams come up there and say, well, we want him, and you can take our old raggedy number 31, 32, or 25 and up pick. We don't care about those picks. Because there's not a wide receiver in this draft that's better than George Pickens. We'll give up this year and next year's. Because if we'd have went in this draft, we probably would have went back in next year trying to get a wide receiver. They don't care. Because they already figured they're going to be at the back end of the draft. We don't even know what that draft number is. And we're already like, yeah, Cowboys going to get them 2 first-rounders, and then they're going to really do this. We don't even know who the players are going to be. Not only do we not know who the players are going to be, we don't know how those players are even going to pan out when we get them. We don't know if they're going to hit in year 1, year 2, or year 3. We don't even know. Man, we got George Pickens hitting right now. And he haven't even hit his ceiling. And we have been brainwashed into believing that 2 players we haven't even seen yet is going to be better than a player that we're watching do some incredible things. Make it make sense. It's called programming. It's called programming. A bird in the hand beats a bird in the bush every day of the week. Jerry knows this. Eric Griffin, let me ask you a question. See, I know how we're talking, and we're talking like Cowboy fans. I want George Pickens to stay here. But what's the incentive? We want the incentive for George Pickens to be, he really likes Dak. He likes Dak. He likes working out with CD, and he likes Brian. He likes the team. That's the incentive. Shouldn't the incentive be, we're going to win a championship this year? Who would you believe, Eric? You tell me, Eric, who would you believe? Who would you believe? The Dallas Cowboys or the Seattle Seahawks? If the Dallas Cowboys told you, we're going to the Super Bowl this year, because I've already been telling you, do you believe me? Who would you believe? Is it more likely the Seattle Seahawks are going back to the Super Bowl this year, or the Cowboys going this year? Which one is it? Now, your heart may tell you the Cowboys are going this year, because my heart is telling me the Cowboys are going this year. Not only my heart, but I believe the moves the Cowboys are making, they're going to the Super Bowl this year. That don't make it true. But George Pickens has seen the proof in the pudding. The Seattle Seahawks is a well-ran machine. Go look at their grades. They are a well-ran machine. They have great coaching. They have great players. Why wouldn't he want to go to a championship team? Come on, man. Come on, man. Why? And D-Block, I get what you're saying. Because D-Block, you don't believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, D-Block, you don't believe that Jerry's gonna re-sign or going to extend George Pickens because you're saying he's going to take the 2 first-round picks. That's what. Tell me if that's what you're saying. Now, I'm saying all of this because I'm telling you right now. If you listen to Jerry already knows this George Pickens thing is about to be a battle. Even Michael Irvin said today, let the battle begin. Jerry knows what this is, man. Jerry knows what this is. And again, that's why I said this George Pickens part of the conversation to me is the most intriguing. You got to listen to what Jerry Jones is saying. And Jerry Jones is kind of drawing a line in the sand. I hope I'm totally wrong. I hope Jerry Jones comes back March the 10th and extend George Pickens. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But they know what they're doing. They're hoping against hope that nobody's going to come out there and do what we did, and nobody's going to come out there and do what we did with Joey Galloway. Well, George Pickens isn't Joey Galloway. Joey Galloway was washed up when the Cowboys did that.
Of terms, we've had several outstanding players that have played under the franchise tag, including Dak.
And this is why I'm making this argument. I posted on X the other day. I was confused. I was more confused after listening to Jerry, and I should have put the rest of it on there. I was more confused about Jerry Jones talking about George Pickens than I was before I heard Jerry Jones talking about George Pickens. And I don't understand how people aren't hearing this. Jerry is talking out of both sides of his mouth. They're banking on, or it seems to me, they're banking on that nobody is going to approach them and make an offer for George Pickens. They're banking on this. And not only are they banking on that to be true, they're also banking on that if no one makes an offer for George Pickens, that's them being able to go back to David Mulugeta and saying that he's not this and he's not worth this. This is what we're going to do. He's going to play on the tag, because if you listen to Jerry Jones, there doesn't seem to be any doubt in my mind. And it doesn't seem to me that Jerry is sending this as a mixed message. Jerry seems to be saying they want George Pickens to play on the tag. That's what it sounds like he's saying to me. They want George Pickens to play on the tag. Let me let you hear it again.
We've had several outstanding players that have played under the franchise tag, including Dak, to be specific. I think Lawrence, and I need my notes to go through any others, but we've got a great track record of working with players through this time. There are two different things. One is very clearly the Cowboys want George Pickens to be a part of our future. That's very clearly. That says that's.
Now, listen to what Jerry Jones is saying. People are hearing this part. They're not hearing the first part. They seem to want George Pickens to play on the tag this year. They seem to want him to play on the tag this year. It doesn't make sense to me. I hope I'm wrong on this, because it doesn't make sense for George to play on the tag. Because if you're trying to get players, do y'all know free agency is about, a week away? Even with the restructuring of the contracts the Cowboys have done so far, $66 million, the Cowboys are already over the cap. I think that only gives the Cowboys somewhere around, $10 million in space. The Cowboys got to make more contract restructures to get more room under the cap. If you want to get more room under the cap, why would you allow George Pickens to hit you for $28 million on the cap when you could extend George Pickens and make $20 million of that, just put it on down the road, and that's more money under the cap for you to sign players? Explain to me again, why would you want George to play on the cap? I mean, on the cap. It don't make sense to me. Frank said Cowboys sign Pickens, Clowney, Aubrey, go big in free agency, minimum 4 defensive vets in the draft. Jeremiah Love, lethal. Frank Lawrence, this is why I'm saying a bird in the hand beats a bird in the bush. A bird in the hand beats a bird in the bush. But I'm telling you right now, it sounds like to me that Jerry is wanting George Pickens to play on the tag. They're wanting him to play on the tag this year. And we're going to see that if they don't get this deal done, this thing is going to drag on. And then George is going to be forced to maybe play on the tag. And it's just going to be nothing but problems, because George is not going to show up for the offseason stuff, I don't believe, even though if you listen to Jerry, they're wanting him to do all of the offseason stuff on the tag. Man, I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you, man. It's Jerry knows what this is. Jerry knows what this is. If no one offers George Pickens next week, I'm telling you, Jerry knows what this is. Star Guardian, appreciate that super chat. Do you think the restructures they did is for GP? I want to believe they are, but they still got a long way to go. They still have to free up more money. Maybe those restructures were more for the Cowboys to get up under to get below the salary cap number before the opening of the new season. I think it might have been more for that. Brandy says, if we lose Pickens, I'm blaming Steven. Appreciate that super chat. Brandy, I don't really know if it's blaming Steven, Brandy, as much as it is George has just outplayed what the Cowboys thought they were going to have to offer him. I just think that's the bottom line. I think Jerry said it all in the beginning. George Pickens exceeded everyone's expectations. No one, man, I'm telling you, I said I knew George was going to be great. I didn't know he was going to be alien. I didn't know he was going to be alien level. GP went off the chain, bottom line. And he's put everybody in this position. And a lot of people don't realize it, but George bet on himself. George didn't want to sign a contract with the Cowboys. He said, I want to play, and then we'll talk at the end of the season. Start guarding next. I mentioned this yesterday. Said it again just a second ago. What if Seattle want what the Cowboys have? What if they want what the Cowboys have? What if they would have paired him up with Jackson Smith and Jigba? What if they were to do that? Shedrick Law said, gee, Dak and Lamb already said if they need to, they will step in and talk to Jerry. Well, we're going to see. And I think they've already talked to Jerry, Shedrick. How much more can you talk to Jerry? Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, man, I give CeeDee Lamb credit. CeeDee Lamb went on a tour on Radio Row during the Super Bowl, talking about how bad they wanted George Pickens to be on this team. I'm telling us, man, this thing with the Cowboys, Jerry knows. Just listen to what Jerry is saying. Jerry knows this has the potential to get ugly. And I find it to be so strange that they're asking Jerry if the tag is merely a placeholder, and we're still on that answer. You're still on a yes-no answer? Understand what the future is. If I tell you I want you to be a part of my team in the future, that don't mean I want you to be a part of my team for the next 5 years. Do we not realize the future is relative? The future is 2026 at this point. Because Jerry, just like Steven, was non-committal about whether or not that tag in the grand scheme of things is a placeholder. It can be a placeholder. But how are you talking about extending George Pickens, but then you're also giving us the story about players you've had to play on the tag? Just keep listening to him. He's telling us.
So clearly. And it has a lot of muscle behind it when it says it. So I'm clear with that. I was rewarded that he expressed himself.
Now notice now, before he goes on, he said that the tag carries a lot of muscle behind it. Jerry is using that tag to say, we own the rights to George Pickens. He either plays for us or he doesn't play. And he's going to play for us on the tag or he doesn't play. This is what Jerry is saying.
He did about how comfortable he was here, how much he liked working with Dak and his teammates, and he was looking forward to his future with the Cowboys. So that's where we'll leave it. I know the subject is where are we, what can we do regarding a negotiation. That's just that. And the system's in place that if you can negotiate and it works for both parties, that's fine. If not, you play on the tag. So
I'm sorry, but Jerry is making this clear. Jerry is making this clear. The Cowboys are resolved. I'm telling y'all right now, they're resolved. They have already set in their minds a number that they're going to pay. D Magna, I just explained this, and I'm gonna explain it again. I know we're thinking that if a team calls for George Pickens, that sets the market. D Magna, I don't know if you've thought about this, but I've been thinking about this from every different angle. And in actuality, that's very deceptive. Because the reason why you used the non-exclusive tag, and let me take you back to where I am on this sheet. All I'm doing is trying to keep this real for everybody. I want to keep you real, because when you are an agent, you have to think like a lawyer. In actuality, what the Cowboys are doing does not truly tell you the market as far as money for George Pickens. If George Pickens was on the market and teams could pay $38 million, I guarantee you there are teams that would pay $38 million for George Pickens. But the caveat is 2 first-round picks. Now, when you look at the teams who are drafting from 1 to about 18, some of these teams, they don't want to give up that kind of capital. They don't want to give up that kind of capital because the Jets don't want to give up that kind of capital because they're at number 2, and they'll probably be at number 5 next year. They don't want to give up that capital. Arizona doesn't want to do it. Tennessee doesn't want to do it. I mean, look out at how high they're drafting. I mean, in reality, man, if you're really thinking like this, thinking about this from a common sense perspective, poor teams they think like poor teams. First round draft picks are important to teams that are drafting in the top 15. That's important to them. That's important to them. And those teams may be more willing to do something the Cowboys are not willing to do. They may be more willing to go in free agency and see if they can find them a wide receiver. They may be more willing to do that. They would rather say, hey, you know what, maybe a Mike Evans will be out there. You know, maybe there'll be a wide receiver out there that'll be really good, and then we'll have 2 first-round picks. And so we're going to continue to try to build our team because we're trying to rebuild our team. This really doesn't say a lot because of the caveat of the 2 first-round picks. You would really know more what the market is. And I'm just giving us common sense. You would really know more of what the market was or is if the 2 first-round picks were not a part of the situation. And this is why the Cowboys are looking at this franchise tag, because I'm going to use the words of Jerry Jones. The system or the tag carries a lot of muscle. Bottom line. And I'm telling you, this is the argument that I would make. Just because a team isn't offering for George Pickens doesn't mean they wouldn't be willing to pay George Pickens $37 million. They may not just be willing to pay him $37 million and give up 2 first-round picks because they are a team that feels like that we would rather have those 2 picks than have George Pickens. Why? Can I make it simple? Because they're not 1 player away. They're not 1 player away. Now, if you were to go to a team like I'm talking about again, these teams like the Houston Texans and the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers, teams that actually need that wide receiver, I'll even go even further. I guarantee you, if the 2 first-round picks were not attached, I guarantee you they would consider paying George Pickens $36 million a season. They would. It's not the fact that teams will not approach the Cowboys with the money. Some teams are just not going to approach the Cowboys with the money and the 2 picks. So explain to me again how that dictates the value of George Pickens when you got 2 first-round picks attached to that. Man, I'm telling you right now. You got to think like a lawyer. You have to think like a lawyer, because this is exactly what I would be doing if I was David Mulugeta. Man, in the grand scheme of things, bro, I'm telling y'all right now, if no team comes up and tries to offer for George Pickens, that actually does not tell you that George Pickens is not worth $35 million a season. It doesn't. It doesn't tell you that. It doesn't tell you that. Setting the market would mean, for example, Puka Nacua is up for a deal. The Rams, when they're going to pay Puka Nacua, they don't have to consider, okay, we're going to pay Puka Nacua $41 million and give up 2 first-round picks. Jamar Chase, they didn't have to consider Jamar Chase and 2 first-round picks. Justin Jefferson, that money and 2 first-round picks. CeeDee Lamb, $34.5 million and 2 first-round picks. Teams for George Pickens, we don't hear what's being said. In reality, I'm telling you, I would destroy this argument. This argument, I would destroy it. This doesn't determine the market for George Pickens when you're attaching 2 first-round picks. What really would determine the market for George Pickens is what if George Pickens was out there on the market and 2 first-round picks were not attached. Come on, man. All I'm telling you is we've been brainwashed to want this, because we feel like we can't lose in this situation. Oh, we can't lose in this situation. We've been programmed. Just because somebody don't want to give up 2 first-round picks and $38 million, that is not setting the market. That's the Cowboys saying that nobody was willing to give up 2 first-round picks, but they actually couldn't say whether or not somebody wanted to pay $38 million. Man, y'all better stop playing. y'all better stop playing. Shedrick said, gee, Dak and Lamb already said this. Oh, yeah, I read this earlier. They already said if they need to, they will step in. But they've already stepped in, Shedrick. CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott have already stepped in. They've already stepped in. What more can they do? CeeDee Lamb tore Radio Row up talking about, man, this dude even snitched. And I don't call it snitching. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. This man literally told on Michael Parsons and one of the Green Bay Packers players, saying that they were tampering, basically. They were trying to recruit George Pickens. No, CeeDee Lamb has already done his part. Jerry knows. Jerry knows. And I'm telling y'all right now, we have been programmed. It doesn't even make sense when you think about this in common sense terms. You don't determine the market. Jackson Smith in Jigba is saying that I'm worth $41 million. He's not saying I'm worth $41 million plus 2 first-round picks. Nobody is doing that. But if GP was out there on the market, I'm telling you, there are teams out there that would be willing to pay this man $38 million, $37 million. They would be willing to pay this man. It is dumb. It is dumb to think, oh, well, this is going to set the market because nobody wants to pay him the money. No, they don't want to pay him the money and give up 2 first-round picks. Nobody has to make that decision typically when they're paying a player top of the market money. The Dallas Cowboys didn't have to decide they were going to give up 2 first-round picks and pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year. He set the market because it was $60 million a year. It's crazy. We've been programmed. We've been programmed to follow what I'm telling you. We've been programmed to be okay with losing George Pickens. I don't care what anyone says. We've been programmed. We've been programmed. And there are people out there who don't want the Cowboys to have George Pickens. They don't want the Cowboys to have George Pickens. And that those same people, they'll watch George Pickens go to another team, tear up the league and help that team go to the playoffs of the Super Bowl. And then they'll come back and say, oh, Dallas was dumb. They should have paid him the money. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Big Ron Bowser said, I agree with you there, G. I said at the end of the season, Dak and Lamb would have a big voice to help things, but Jerry and Cowboy are probably relying on that factor way too much. Hey, Rombowski, I'm telling you, this is smoke and mirrors. And it is crazy to me that people are saying, yeah, man, yeah, this is going to, it's not setting the market. Puka Nacua, they don't have to consider giving up 2 first-round picks to sign Puka Nacua. They don't have to do that. And we are sitting here buying into this nonsense of, yeah, they're about to show George Pickens what he's really worth. What wide receiver in the grand scheme of things, if we're just trying to say all things are equal? I don't know. Would Cincinnati have gave up 2 first-round picks and signed Jamar Chase? They didn't have to make that choice. Is Minnesota, or are they giving up 2 first-round picks and signing Justin Jefferson? Man, we don't even hear what we're saying because we've been programmed. And that's why Jerry is saying the system carries muscle. Y'all better stop playing. They're trying to figure out ways to combat these agents. This isn't about George Pickens. I'm sorry, it's not about George Pickens. It's not about George Pickens. This is about these guys trying to figure out ways to work around these agents. D Block, understand. Did Jerry tag Dak twice? Understand, D Block. He's a quarterback. That's a whole different discussion. He's a quarterback. Dak Prescott turned his ankle around backwards almost and came back and got the biggest deal, the biggest quarterback deal at that time. Let George Pickens turn his ankle around backwards. I'm willing to bet you a savings, and I'm not a gambling man or a betting man, but if I was, I'd be willing to bet you a savings that if George Pickens turns his foot around backwards and comes back slower than he was, because we all know that Dak Prescott has not run the same since he got that ankle injury. Let that happen to a wide receiver. Let that happen to a Michael Parsons. They turn their leg around backwards, turn the knee around backwards, turn an ankle around backwards. They're not getting that same contract. It's a whole different ball game with quarterbacks. It's a whole different ball game. It's the very reason why Kirk Cousins can tear an Achilles and come back and get $120 million from the Atlanta Falcons. There is no other position that can do that except for quarterback. Of course, Dak Prescott did it because quarterbacks can get away with it. There is no other position that can get away with it. There's no other position that can get away with it. And they know full well this is the issue. They know this is the issue. I'm telling you right now, y'all better listen to what Jerry Jones is telling you out of his own mouth. They are expecting George Pickens to play on the tag. They're expecting him to do it, and you can hear it by their own language. The tag carries muscle. Dak played on a tag. DeMarcus Lawrence played on a tag. I'd have to get my notes. Man, we are big. We fooled our own self. This is not about setting the market. The only way you set the market is you're on the market. George Pickens is actually not on the market. A non-exclusive tag actually doesn't put you on the market. It puts you on the market with stipulations. 2 first-round picks and the option to match. When you're on the market, highest bidder wins. Stop it. Stop this. We've been hoodwinked. We've been hoodwinked and ran amok. We have been programmed to believe this nonsense. I'm riding with the Cowboys either way, but I'm telling you right now, what we're saying about George Pickens isn't true. And what people are telling us about George Pickens isn't true. They continue to try to devalue this man. continue to try to devalue this man. Yeah, we need to see one more year. Yeah, we need to see just one more year of George Pickens. He only did it for one season. It's his only great season. Nobody never talks about, again, I seem to be the only one saying this, he played with 5 of the worst quarterbacks that are currently in the NFL. They have to be at the bottom 5. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Even Mike Tomlin had enough of the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's absolutely crazy. Ron Hanna said they've already done some restructuring to free up some money. Already know they have. But again, it doesn't put them very far up under the cap. Nick Harris is already reporting this. The Cowboys have a long way to go before they can even start talking about playing in free agency. They got to go do a whole lot more restructuring. They got to restructure Quinnen. They got to restructure Kenny. They got to restructure Osa. They got to start considering Deron Bland. They got to start considering Jake Ferguson. They got to make a whole lot more restructures to even get to where they can start playing. To where they can start playing in free agency. They got a long way to go. Shedrick, he's a quarterback. He's a quarterback. He's a quarterback, Shedrick. Quarterbacks are a whole different ball game. They're a whole different ball game. D-Block. I'm telling you right now, D-Block, I understand where you are. And I don't know if I can disagree with you. D-Block, let me meet you in the middle. If you're listening to Jerry Jones right now, he is resolved. And they are resolved. Do y'all hear what I'm telling you? They are resolved that if they have to lose George Pickens, they're going to lose him. I'm telling you right now. I don't understand why nobody else is hearing this. They're saying it. They're saying it clear as day. I don't know if they can say it any clearer. We're resolved. They are. D-Block, this is where you and I are going to agree. You say they're not going to re-sign him. I haven't went there yet. But let me go here with you. They're ready to not extend him. They have prepared themselves to let him go. You better believe it. You better believe it. They have prepared themselves to lose George Pickens. They prepared us by dangling over the Cowboys nation 2 first-round picks, and we don't even know who those picks are. We don't know who they are. We don't know how good they're going to be in the pros. We got birds in the bushes, and we're ready to let go of a bird in the hand. Mozzie Smith, anybody? Mozzie Smith, anybody? How many players, if we really want to go down the line, how many players? I mean, the Cowboys have been looking for a wide receiver up until this point. They had to trade for George Pickens. They've had draft picks before where they could have got wide receivers, didn't get them. Man, when you start talking about replacing George Pickens, man, you're talking about top 5, top 10 in the draft. You got to lose to do that. You got to lose to do that, or you got to trade away the farm. Jerry is telling us they're resolved.
That's official now, and it's in place. And that's the way I look at it.
What's your confidence level in getting it done?
You're going to have to speak up a little bit. I'm sorry.
What's your confidence level in getting a long-term deal done by training camp?
So often when we've done franchise, we get long-term deals done. That's a lot of confidence there. Again, we really get a lot of deals done because we want them to be a part of the future beyond the franchise year for it to be there. We've even gone as far as, just to remind you that we basically have franchise like Dak twice. And so there's no question. That's why I'm trying to be real clear. Without a question, this is an expression on our part of what kind of person we think he is, what kind of player we think he is. I think that in its own way says a lot right there.
Now, I want you to hear what Jerry is telling you. Jerry is telling you and telling us that them putting a tag on George Pickens is their expression of love to George Pickens, that they want him to be a part of the Cowboys' future. And when we wipe away the smoke and mirrors, why is the franchise tag to George Pickens an expression of we want you here in the future, when in reality, the franchise tag is really set in place so that a team doesn't lose the value of said player? That's what it's there for. That's what it's there for. It's not there in the grand scheme of things, whether we want to accept this or not. It's not set there for the player. The franchise tag is about the franchise. That's why it's called the franchise tag rather than the player tag. It's the franchise tag. The franchise tag is to benefit the franchise. That system is there for anybody, whether you love that player or not. That's not what this is about. It's a negotiation tactic, bottom line. That's all it is. It's a negotiation tactic, bottom line. Bottom line, it's all it is. It's a negotiation tactic. And I understand what Jerry is saying. He's telling us how much they love George, and I notice how hey, George loves us and we love George. We want George to be here. Okay, so why hasn't he been extended, Jerry? Because of the football business. Bottom line, because of the football business. Because of the football business. George Pickens has put the Cowboys in a situation to where he's outplayed what they thought they were going to be able to pay him. George Pickens came in here and showed up and showed out, bottom line. And so now the Cowboys, I'm sure they know there is a number out there that George Pickens wants, but they know they're not going to give him that number. They don't want to give him that number. And I don't believe, at least I choose to believe, I don't think that number is actually $40 million. I don't think it's $40 million. It sounds like to me, even though CD said that he doesn't care if the Cowboys pay GP more than him, sounds like to me they don't want to pay GP more than CD. We're going to see where this goes, but I'm telling you right now, man, Jerry is telling you what this is, and he knows what it is. That's why he's saying some of the things that he's saying, because Jerry knows that if they don't take care of this, man, this thing is going to go off the rails, and it's going to be ugly.
Regarding his representation, I can clearly work with his agent, not clearly to you, but clearly to me. I have no issues. We haven't met, as you well know, but we haven't met. But to the end that we can have discussion about him and other players that he represents. We understand the angst that's there, how he's representing and his goals of maximizing the dollars. And he clearly is accomplished enough to know the alternative to that is our job of managing the club and the salary cap and getting as much mileage out of the cap as we can. No mistake about how much we want George Pickens to be a part of our future. And
So why do y'all think Jerry keeps saying this? Why do y'all think Jerry keeps saying this? I'm just telling you, man, David Mulugeta is sitting back. David Mulugeta is sitting back telling George Pickens, and I'm telling y'all right now, the only one who's going to be able to stop this is George Pickens. The only one who's going to be able to stop this is George Pickens. It would take George Pickens to tell David Mulugeta, I'll play for the Cowboys for $33 million a year, $67 million guaranteed. 4-year contract. It's going to take George Pickens to do that. Bottom line. Because I'm telling y'all now that if George allows if George allows David Mulugeta to negotiate this deal, I'm just telling you right now. Mr. Seed Starter, I think you're making a great point. Prepare to be without George Pickens. Mr. Seed Starter, let me tell you something. Me and my wife went out to lunch today, and we were talking Cowboys, and I told my wife, I said, I'm preparing myself either way. I'm preparing myself for George Pickens to be with the Cowboys, and I'm preparing myself for George Pickens to not be with the Cowboys. I'm preparing myself. This is it's not the same as Michael Parsons, but it's the same. It's not the same as in the players. You can see how Dak and CD, they're talking, even the way Jerry and everybody is talking. But the problem is, those are not the issues. See, it's not about the fact that Jerry loves George Pickens. And that's why I'm telling you got to peel back this layer of all of this sugarcoating. It's not a matter of Jerry loves George Pickens. It's not a matter of George Pickens loves Jerry. It's not a matter of Jerry wants GP to be here or GP wants to be here. None of that matters. What matters is the number that George Pickens is asking for. That's the only thing that matters. We can argue till we are blue in the face. The only thing that matters is what David Mulugeta is asking for. And the only one that can tell him to ask for anything less is George Pickens. It's George Pickens. He's the only one that can do it. So I prepared myself. I've literally prepared myself for us to not have George Pickens. There will be nobody, and I'm using hyperbole, but there'll be nobody happier than me when they sign George Pickens. There'll be nobody happier than me because I understand how hard it has been for the Cowboys to get back to this point. Man, let me tell y'all something. When Amari Cooper was here, CeeDee Lamb wasn't the CeeDee Lamb he is now. But we got George Pickens here in his peak of where he is peaking right now. And CeeDee Lamb is in the prime of his career. You don't get that opportunity a lot of times, man. We're talking historical wide receiver duo, Drew Pearson and Tony Hill. Michael Irvin and Alvin Harper were not at the level of where CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens are as a duo. I would never take any one of these two receivers over Michael Irvin, but I would take both of these receivers over Alvin Harper. And George Pickens, while he is not the dog and the dog with the wheel of Michael Irvin, he's a nasty player. He's a nasty player. You don't get this opportunity to have a CeeDee Lamb and a George Pickens. I don't think we understand what I'm explaining. I don't want to hear, I don't care about no 2 first-round picks. I'm caring about CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens on the same offense. And if they get this thing going the way they should get it going in the second season, man, I don't want to hear about no 2 picks, and I don't even know who those players are. We don't even know where the Cowboys are going to spin those 2 players. I don't know what those players are. I know what George Pickens is right now with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. I know what it is right now. And I'd rather have the bird in the hand than the bird in the bush. But I understand it's a business. It's a business. D. Magda, I disagree. I respectively disagree. I'm not looking at this from my eyes. You think I'm looking at it from my eyes? No. I'm looking at this as a business. I'm looking at this as a business. I'm peeling back these layers that Jerry is giving. Man, none of this stuff Jerry is saying, D. Magna, matters. It don't matter if he loves George Pickens. It don't matter if George Pickens loves him. The only thing that's stopping them from extending George Pickens right now is what? The fact they love George Pickens? The fact that George Pickens don't want to be here? He said he wants to be here. What's stopping it, D. Magda? The business. The business. I'm explaining the business to you. I'm explaining the business, and I'm looking at this from the business perspective. None of this stuff matters that Jerry is saying in the grand scheme of things. Jerry is saying that he doesn't follow this. D. Magda, you want to hear propaganda? You want to hear nonsense? And everybody's running with this. Let me give you the cold hard facts. If Jerry did have a problem of negotiating with David Mulugeta, does that mean he don't get to deal with David Mulugeta? I'll wait. I'll wait. So what, he doesn't have a problem dealing with David Mulugeta? So what? What if he did? He still has to deal with David Mulugeta. Man, stop this. What we're talking about right now is the business. We're talking about the business, man. We're not talking about opinions. We're talking about the business. And we're trying to disguise the business with all this bull junk, in the words of Deion Sanders. I know what Jerry is doing. Jerry doesn't want this to go off the rails, but Jerry knows that after next week, that if they don't extend George Pickens, nobody knows. They're trying to encourage George Pickens to play on the tag. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to encourage him to play on the tag. Now, we're going to see. The only one that changes any of this, D. Magda and everybody else, the only one that's going to change any of this is George Pickens. David Mulugeta doesn't get to decide if George Pickens gets on the field. George Pickens does. George Pickens gets to make that decision. I'm not looking at this through anybody's eyes but the business. George Pickens is the only one that gives the final say-so on that risk. Bottom line. Bottom line. And you can say they're doing this the right way, and anybody else can say they're doing this the right way. And at this point in time, I still say a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. And you don't get this opportunity. And if you think we're going to get this opportunity again to have two wide receivers like this, I don't know what to tell you. Because if we could have done it, we'd have already done it. And if other teams could have done it, they'd be doing it all the time too. Man, everybody don't get these opportunities. You don't get these opportunities to have this kind of firepower on offense. So, again, we've been programmed. We've been programmed to be okay with George Pickens walking away. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay with it. I'm not. You don't give away a bird in the hand for two players you don't even know who they are. It doesn't make sense, man. It's like salesmanship 101. You sell people on something. You sell people on a dream rather than reality. I'm in reality. The Cowboys right now are better with George Pickens than they are without him.
Would want all of our fans to rest assured that I have every intention of working very good with his agent. I have no reason to have an issue other than the fact that he represented Parsons, and we ended up making a trade with Parsons. But y'all heard me say before that had little to do with his involvement. That was more about just the situation, criticize me or not, about what Parsons was worth in a decision on our part.
You made a point to say you can work with the agent. And the reason is, I guess, this issue because you made a point last year to say that I don't need to talk to the agent. I don't even know the agent's name. Do you regret how that narrative came out, or you making a point that I have no problem with the agent now?
Yeah, the regret is not at all the way it turned out.
I'm just talking about how it worked.
I understand.
The agent narrative,
And
yeah.
so I don't have a regret. Agents, attorneys, they're not the principal. They represent, as we all know, I don't have to explain to anybody that, they represent many players in this case, or an attorney represents many clients. And so I understand that. I've been doing this a long time, both on the field and off the field. And so I understand representation. And I don't get mad about it. I don't flare about it. I may not be getting the answers that I think is in the best interest of my side of the ledger, but I sure don't flare about it. I have no reason to flare about him because I've never even talked to him. And so the bottom line is that to the end that we can, I've had agents with their wives spend the night in my house before. So I don't have any problem, but I clearly understand they're there to represent that part of it. It has a major thing called financial.
Ray Stevens, I respectfully disagree with you. I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you the football business. You're not hearing what I'm telling you. You think I'm telling you my opinion. I'm telling you football business. All this stuff that Jerry is saying right now don't matter. Don't matter. I know what I'm talking about. None of this matters. It don't matter what Jerry's intentions are. He has to deal with David Mulugheta. This deal don't get done without David Mulugheta. It doesn't get done. That isn't my opinion. That's fact. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't care what your intentions are. It's what you must do. It's the business. And Jerry is not getting this deal done without David Mulugheta. And Jerry knows full well what he's doing. Jerry is not operating under the guise of, I love George Pickens. No, it's the franchise tag. That's the business. It is designed so that the team gets compensation if a player goes somewhere else. That's what it's designed for. That's the business. Tell me where my opinion is in that. That's the business. And if you listen to Jerry Jones, he's telling you out of his own mouth. They are resolved. This is a negotiation. And if they can't come to an agreement, Jerry said that out of his own mouth, then what do you do next? Explain it to me. Tell me where my opinion is. Just tell me where my opinion is. When you tell me where my opinion is, then okay, just tell me. That is not opinion. What Jerry is saying, I'm telling you, it don't matter. It don't matter what he's saying. And we have been programmed. We have been programmed. We're ready to get rid of George Pickens because somebody told us he ain't worth this. We don't even know if George Pickens, for as much as you're saying, we don't know if a team will offer 2 first-round picks. How do we know that GP is asking for $41 million? George Pickens hasn't said a word. His representation hasn't said a word about what they're asking. But I do believe the Cowboys are saying something. There's a number that we're not willing to pay. Whatever it is, we're not willing to pay it. So none of what Jerry says, none of this part of the George Pickens conversation, none of it matters. People are running with this. They've been programmed too. They've been a part of the program. Some of these same people are some of the people who've been hating on George Pickens. He ain't that good. Had one good. I'm laughing, even you saying, he only had one good year. Played with 5 of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL right now and was still putting up 15-point-something yards per clip. Still almost eclipsing 1,000 yards. George Pickens got with a great quarterback, top 3 quarterback, and did exactly what he should have did. Man, I'm telling you, a lot of us are falling into this whole trap of what everybody's been doing to George Pickens the whole time. This has been one of the greatest smear campaigns on a player that I can remember. This has been one of the greatest, and I don't think it's as great as what they did to Dak Prescott when they brought in the accuser of Dak Prescott on 105.3. I don't know if anything ever topped that. But man, people have been destroying George Pickens.
That's always involved because of just the nature of what we're doing with. And rarely do you see eye to eye on that. And I accept the fact that George or any other player might want somebody else to speak of the financial about it. Let me be real clear. I have no issues at all with working with his agent, and I have no issue with the agent, him, not at all. When he's representing a player or someone that we have, coach, someone that we're with, then those issues are just obvious because the better job I can do for the club, the better off we are, and the better job he can do for the player financially, the better off, better he gets. He gets more money.
Steven had talked about how it's
Now, I'm going to switch this over to YouTube so we can get that dark screen off. Now, Jerry is being smarter about this than he was last year. Jerry is being a whole lot smarter than he was about this last year. And the reason why Jerry is having to come out and explain himself is because of the stuff that was going on with David Mulugeta. And Jerry was catching all kinds of flack because people were saying he was disrespecting David Mulugeta. So many people were saying he was disrespecting David Mulugeta. That's what they were saying. So Jerry is coming out now saying, I'm not going to disrespect David Mulugeta. I still think it's crazy, and maybe I'm crazy on this part. Maybe I am crazy on this part. But I find it to be crazy that at this point, Jerry Jones is still saying he hasn't talked to David Mulugeta. That's crazy work to me. That's crazy work to me. How have you not talked to David Mulugeta? That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. That's almost like an oxymoron. I have no problem negotiating with David Mulugeta, but I haven't talked to him up until this point. So follow this. So you're telling me we put George Pickens on a non-exclusive tag, and we don't even talk to the agent to see what they're wanting? That's crazy to me. But hey, it is what it is. I'm just telling you. None of this makes sense. And I know why Jerry is getting out in front of this thing. Because Jerry knows full well this has the potential to get ugly. Has the potential to get ugly. Kevin Gibbs, appreciate you. Dominique Pittman, he says, nothing about this says moving different, G. Now, we're going to get past this George Pickens part. Because everything else that Jerry said in this interview, I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved everything Jerry said in this interview. Everything other than this George Pickens situation. Because I don't think people are paying attention. They're running with this, talking about, yeah, this, that, and the other, because people themselves have been programmed. Because there are a lot of people out there. They also want George Pickens to play on a franchise tag, and I don't understand it. If George decides to play on the franchise tag, I'm rolling. But if George decides not to play on the franchise tag, I understand it. It's a business. And what Jerry is talking about under all those layers of cotton candy, I know what Jerry is saying. Man, this is a business. And I think Jerry is even explaining that too. It's a business. Bottom line, it's a business.
Because the better job I can do for the club, the better off we are, and the better job he can do for the player financially, the better off, better he gets. He gets more money.
Steven had talked about how it's important that George be here for the offseason. When you talk to George, did you get any sort of assurance on offseason activities, and do you expect that from him?
Well, I know last year they had a great workouts with Dak, even before we got to any official workouts that were in the off season. That's the way Dak really likes to do it. What I did get is how much it meant to George that he's working with Dak.
Now, watch this. Have y'all noticed? Dave asked Jerry 2 easy questions, and Jerry has yet to answer those questions. See, Jerry understands. This is why I'm telling y'all. This is not my opinion. I'm telling you the football business. See, Jerry also knows in that conversation with George Pickens, Jerry can't be on the phone with George Pickens talking about, yeah, you know what, and we want you to be in training camp this year. Jerry can't be having that. He can't be having that conversation. He can't be having the conversation with George Pickens of, are you going to be in OTAs? Are you going to be in training camp? Are you going to be in the voluntaries? He can't have that conversation. He can't even tell George Pickens, we want you. I mean, he's very limited in what he can say to George Pickens. And so that's why when they're asking him these questions about George Pickens, it's simple. He can't answer them. Because Jerry knows this is a business. And George Pickens has up to what? I think it's what, July the 15th or June 15th, somewhere in there. He knows that George Pickens, he has a long time before he signs this deal if he doesn't want to sign it. This franchise tag. GP can make the decision not to come on onto the field for the Cowboys. And so that's why I'm telling you, they know this is a business. Everything that Jerry is saying, I love it. Yeah, you don't want this to go off the rails like it did with Michael Parsons to get personal. But I think that George Pickens has listened to Dak Prescott. Don't take it personal, GP. This is the business. This is the business. And if you listen to Dak Prescott said in his own press conference last year that he was on the verge of not re-signing with the Cowboys. He said it, I didn't. He said it wasn't until he talked to Jerry and not about business and found out the plans that Jerry had and blah, blah, blah. That was the thing that made him sign this last deal with the Cowboys. And that's why I'm telling y'all again, this is not my opinion. I'm telling you the facts. The only one that is truly in control of what George Pickens does as far as OTAs, training camp, and doing things with Jerry Jones, George Pickens. Nobody else. Nobody else. It's George Pickens. Nobody else. Jerry nor David Mulligetta in the grand scheme of things as far as what's going on. George Pickens. He's the only one. He's the only one. That's it. Lynn said Jerry pushed all his chips to the table in these negotiations and telling Mulligetta, I call. Bottom line, I'm telling us right now, Jerry is resolved. And if there is one thing I'll give Jerry Jones credit for in everything he's saying, because I understand what Jerry is saying, he's resolved. And I'll be honest with you, man, whenever you start doing negotiations, anybody who's ever done negotiations, you have to be that prepared. You have to be that prepared. You have to be that prepared to take it wherever it goes, business-wise. And I know we don't want to hear that. But Jerry is saying they're resolved. They're resolved. So we're going to see where this goes. Bottom line, that's all we can do at this point. We're all going to be on the edge of our seats because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. We just don't. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't think God cares about football, but I've been praying that the Cowboys extend George Pickens. Because I believe a bird in the hand beats two in the bush. We don't even know what those two players would even look like, but I know what George Pickens looks like. I know what this offense can be. They didn't even scratch the surface, if you ask me. They didn't even scratch the surface. This offense can be better. Dak said it. Jerry said it. Schottenheimer said it. This offense can be better. You give them another year together, they're going to be so hard to stop, it's going to be delirious. You let go of George Pickens, you got to start that chemistry all over again. You got to start that all over again. You keep this offense together, and I'm including Brandon Aubrey. You keep this offense together, and then you go out there and fix your defense. And you go out there and fix that defense, you're on to something. You're on to something. But again, I'm going to give Jerry credit for this. They're resolved. That's what Jerry is telling us. They're resolved. All this other stuff, it don't matter. It don't matter what Jerry is saying. It matters in the court of public opinion. But David Mulugeta understands this. It don't matter. It don't matter to David Mulugeta. I'm telling y'all, it don't matter to David Mulugeta if Jerry likes him. It don't matter. Because I'm the agent. Until he fires me, I'm the agent. And any business is going through me, and I represent him. Bottom line, they're resolved. Pro Car Care said if the agent is dead set on getting $40 million, they will let him go. You better say it again. This is where D-Block is. I know what D-Block is saying. D-Block is saying he don't think they're going to re-sign him because they're not going to want to pay him the money. See, this is where people are wrong about setting the market. It don't matter to David Mulugeta if nobody comes up and says we want to sign George Pickens. It don't matter to David Mulugeta. That's not going to stop him from asking for what his client wants and what he wants. They don't care. They don't care. And I'm telling you right now, just like last year with the Michael Parsons thing, no, Jerry is doing this smarter this year. And this is the part I'm going to give Jerry credit on. Jerry is doing this smarter this year. See, last year, Jerry let David Mulugeta and Michael Parsons take him out into the deep. And then waited until after free agency, after the draft, and then started all the craziness. Not this time. Jerry is saying, no, we're going to put this out there right now. If anybody wants George Pickens, if you're willing to pay him $41 million, Freddie Morales has been joking about this for about 2 to 3 weeks. Freddie Morales said, if anybody wants George Pickens, you got to give me your entire draft this year and your first round pick next year. That's what Freddie Morales has been saying. So you know what Jerry Jones is saying? Jerry Jones is saying, well, I can't do what Freddie Morales said. So I'm going to do what's in my right this year. If you want $40 million for George Pickens, if you want $41 million, if you want and I'm telling you right now, I believe the limit for the Cowboys is probably around 35. I believe the limit is 35. And if you want 35 for George Pickens, if somebody comes up and make the offer, we're going to get 2 first-round draft picks. And if nobody gives us 2 first-round draft picks, we're still not giving him $37 million and $36 million or $38 million. We're still not giving it to him, and we'll still own the rights to George Pickens. And in the grand scheme of things, the Cowboys can trade him, and there's still nothing he can do. I'm telling you, man, Jerry is resolved. That's where I'm going to give Jerry credit. That's where I'm going to give Jerry Jones credit. Jerry's resolved. I believe it. He's resolved. Demetrius said, I admire your loyalty, but a GP trade is the end for me because nothing has really changed. Same old Cowboys, business as usual. Not even the reality of death is going to convince the Joneses. Demetrius, I'm telling you, Jerry is resolved. Jerry is resolved. And Jerry is telling us, I think he's telling us some things we need to really be paying attention to. Jerry is saying that if we don't get this deal done with GP, it's not my fault. Jerry's just saying we're not willing to go there. Man, I'm telling you, I see what Jerry is. I'm not mad at Jerry. I'm not mad at Jerry per se. All I'm saying is to people is that we got to start thinking in the football business sense of mind. And we got to be ready, man. We got to be prepared. And I do think that that they've done a great job of preparing us to be without George Pickens. Because people are saying that George Pickens is asking for 40 and 41 million. And I haven't heard George Pickens camp even say this. I've been saying for 2 weeks, and this is my opinion. I've been saying for 2 weeks, I just don't think George is asking for 40 and 41 million dollars. I don't think he's asking for that. I could be totally wrong. I just don't think that's what they're asking for. But I also think they're not asking for 30 million either. I don't think they're asking for 30 million either. I don't. I think they're asking for somewhere around $34 to $35 million. But the Cowboys, I'm telling you, they're resolved. Newhouse fam, I said the same thing when I heard this George Pickens part of the conversation. I was like, I'm more confused now than I was before he started talking about it. But they're resolved. I'm telling you, they're resolved. They're resolved. They're not like they were last year. I think the Michael Parsons thing, he won't admit it, but I think it caught him off guard. But Jerry is saying this year, I'm not going to be caught off guard. I'm not going to be caught off guard this year. I'm resolved. This is what we're willing to pay, and this is what we're not willing to pay. So if we can't meet here, we got a tag on George. He's going to play, and if he doesn't play, we'll deal with it from there. But I think he's resolved. Sebastian said Jerry Jones said last year he didn't know his name. David Mulugeta, is he lying and confused? Wait a minute, Sebastian, let me add on to something that you're cooking with. I told my wife today, I said, and Jerry Jones still won't say David Mulugeta's name. Jerry still won't say David Mulugeta's name, man. Still won't say David Mulugeta's name. Larry said, I think Jerry knows what he wants to do and it won't be popular with the fans. There's always trying to soften the blow. I'm telling you, Larry, he's resolved. I think he's resolved. I just think that's what it is. He's resolved. They're resolved. It's no other way to slice this. And I'm not telling you again, that's not my opinion. That's not conjecture. That's Jerry Jones telling you this. We're resolved. We're resolved. We're prepared this year. We're prepared for whatever comes our way. We're prepared. We're prepared. Bog Daddy, I'll tell you right now, there's not a lot of people that agree with you on this because I am not one of the negative Dallas Cowboy creators. I'm one of the positive Dallas Cowboy creators. I'm sorry, I'm just telling you the truth. Now, if you don't like that, well, I guess you can go to whatever content creator you want to go to. I don't care. I'm one of these people. I deal in reality. This is how I live my life. This is how I preach. This is how I do everything. I live in reality. Jerry Jones is telling us in a very sugar-coated way. They're resolved. If you call that negative, call it what you want to. They're resolved. They are flat out resolved. And that's what Jerry is saying. We're resolved. We know where we're going with this. We know where it can go, and we know where it can go. We're resolved. So on this part, I applaud Jerry. If you're going to make a decision, don't make it haphazardly. Be resolved. Be resolved. Papa Suge said, I 100% agree with what you're spitting, G. This was a terrible idea. Non-exclusive tag, trade scenarios. All of it has been garbage. Pickens needs to be signed if they really want him here. Simple. Papa Suge, that's why I'm telling people. You got to understand what's being said. If you really want George here and George really wants to be here, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Why is he not here? Why is he not here? Because of the business. George Pickens outplayed what anybody thought he was going to be worth. And so now it's come down to this. It's come down to this. So at the end of the day, I don't know if I can even be mad about it as much as it's in the grand scheme of things. George Pickens just proved everybody wrong. That's just the bottom line. George proved everybody wrong. George came out and balled out in such a manner that now this is the conversation. And even Jerry admitted that in the beginning of the conversation. I'm not mad about it. I mean, at this point, I can't be mad about it. I'm still rolling with the Cowboys. I love the Dallas Cowboys. But it is what it is. Najee said, he said, think about every player we've tagged recently, we've extended. Pickett seems to be okay with it, so let's see how it plays out. Najee, I'm not agreeing with you on that. We're letting Jerry Jones tell us that George Pickens was happy about his future. I don't know any player who would be happy to be put on a tag unless somebody told him, this is a placeholder, we're going to extend you. If you tell me that, I'm with you. But if you don't tell me that, why would I be happy again? I don't want to play on no tag. I don't want to play on no tag. Bottom line, I don't know of any player that would be happy to play on no doggone tag. Dak wasn't happy to play on the tag, and we know that by the deal that he got. Dak Prescott was not happy to be playing on a tag, risking his entire career. But Dak bet on himself, and he got paid. Jeremy said, G, right, y'all, it's smoke and mirrors. Distracting you with one hand and the trick is happening on the other. I'm just telling us, Jeremy Betts, all this stuff about George Pickens, none of it matters. And the only one who can stop any of this is George Pickens. And I said this from the get-go. Only George Pickens can say, hey, David, let me tell you what, man. I want to be in Dallas. I don't want to push the issue. 30 million, 31, 32, 33 is good enough for me. 65, 67 million dollars is good enough for me. Let's get the deal done. I want to stay in Dallas. Let's roll with it. Only George Pickens is going to make these decisions in the grand scheme of things. But I can tell you this, if he going to let David Mulugeta negotiate it, hey, I'm just telling y'all right now, you better get ready. Because David Mulugeta is, his favorite team is not anybody. It's nothing against the Cowboys. David Mulugeta's favorite team is money. That's it, bottom line. His favorite team is money. He don't care about no Cowboys or nobody else. All his aim is to get his clients the highest. And Jerry has even expressed this just then. Jerry said his goal is to get his client the most money. And he said it is my job to manage the Cowboys. Jerry's in reality. Love him, like him. Love Jerry, like him or hate him. I'm giving Jerry credit for this. He's in reality.
And that was a big thing that I came away with, of how much that he appreciates what Dak is about, what he's about. Obviously, it's kind of unique, quarterbacks and receivers. They're dependent upon each other a lot. And that's not to say Dak's not dependent on that center either, but still we understand timing. And so to the end that they work through that, I'm sure it will. The idea of saying, well, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, all of it is, in my mind, George's best interest to come in and help us win and have a better season than we had last year. What I do know, and we wouldn't even be having this type of conversation, is that we are sold on his ability to be a part of a team, play for not only the play for the good of the team. He's a outstanding teammate. All of that is why we have decided to pay him what we're paying him.
Hey, Jerry.
Now, listen to what Jerry just said. Jerry is saying or selling us on, if they didn't like George Pickens, they wouldn't have put the franchise tag on him. That's not true. You're not going to lose compensation for a player of George Pickens' ilk. It don't matter. And I'm telling you, I'm not being negative. I'm being truthful. It don't matter if you loved, liked, or hated George Pickens. You were still going to put the franchise tag on him. Why? Especially the non-exclusive. Because you're going to get major compensation if there's a team that's willing to come out there and pay George Pickens and give up 2 first-round picks. Bottom line. Bottom line. Bottom line. I mean, it's just bottom line. Again, I'm just prepared. I'm prepared for whatever. I'm prepared for whatever. I'm rolling with the Cowboys. Nobody's bigger than the star. I'm rolling with the Cowboys. But I understand Jerry is doing all of this for the media. But in the grand scheme of things, man, this is business. This is business. This is business. And at the same time, I believe that George Pickens is saying something. This is business and never personal. George don't mind talking to Jerry. But he's not going to make the same mistake that Michael Parsons made. I'm just telling you he's not. He's not going to make the same mistake. He's just not going to do it. So at the end of the day, the only one who's going to really decide this is George Pickens. He's the only one that can decide this. Only George Pickens decides on what he's willing to pay for. Brandon Green, I agree with you. Salary cap screws teams over to get good talent. It does. Cowboys talk with Chuck. He said, yep, GP is a great receiver indeed. Hope this franchise tag does not backfire on Jerry and we lose GP. Cowboys talk with Chuck. Let me tell you something. They're banking on nobody's going to offer anything for George. They're banking on it. They're banking on it. Don't all be the best. He said, y'all need to understand this has nothing to do with GP. I said this earlier. It has to do with the agent. They might just want the league to negotiate for them so they can match it. But again, you got to understand something, don't all be the best. And this is the argument I'm making if I was an agent. Because I thought about this all day. Don't all be the best. Think about this. This is not a real negotiation. It can only be a real negotiation for George Pickens, don't know be the best. It could only be a real negotiation if the 2 first-round picks were not involved. If it was merely teams could negotiate, the Cowboys could match or either let George Pickens walk, that would be them being able to let them set the market. But in the grand scheme of things, the caveat is the 2 first-round picks. Again, I'm making the same point. When the Cowboys extended Dak Prescott, they didn't have to decide upon giving up 2 first-round picks and paying Dak Prescott $60 million. No, the market the market was set by the money, not the money in 2 first-round picks. I don't understand. I mean, maybe we haven't heard it like this before. But I'm telling you, this is the same argument that doggone Mulugeta is going to make. Jackson Smith and Jigba. He wants to be the highest paid wide receiver. He wants to reset the market. Well, when Seattle pays him, they don't have to give up 2 first-round picks and paying him. The market is merely going to be set by what someone is willing to pay in Jigba without giving up draft picks versus we're talking about George Pickens. We're wanting somebody to pay George Pickens $36, $37 million a year and give up 2 first-round picks. That's actually not, as much as we're saying that's how you set the market in the grand scheme of things, that's not true. You're comparing apples and walnuts. Those aren't the same. If you're on the open market, the market does set your pay. But if you're not on the open market, GP is not on the open market. He's in the market with stipulations. Man, I'm telling you right now, I guarantee you there are 5 or 6 teams that would pay George Pickens $35 or $36 million and wouldn't even think about it. But to give up 2 first-round picks and pay $35 or $36 million, they're going to think about it. They're going to think about it. But I'm like Rombowski. Man, better stop playing. Keep thinking the team won't step up. You never know. But the Cowboys are banking on this. Rombowski said 34, 37, or 40. That's all funny. The main holdup, I'm sure, is guaranteed money. Yep. To which is weird how nothing has gotten leaked out about what GP is seeking. Now, Rombowski, that's how you know this is business. And David Mulugeta and his camp, they ain't leaking nothing. They're not leaking nothing. They're not saying a word. Lil Wayne said real G's move in silence like lasagna. Nah, that's how real G's move. That's how real G's move. David Mulugeta ain't saying a word. In the end of the day, again, I'm telling you, this all boils down to George Pickens. What George Pickens wants to do. That's all it boils down to. That's all it boils down to. I'm sorry, Miss Matrix, you said, is it G? Steven has said multiple times, Jerry doesn't talk to agents. Well, I think it's crazy, Miss Matrix, that he's talking to players and not talking to agents in the grand scheme of things. But I get what you're saying. He said he doesn't talk to agents, but Miss Matrix, let's be real. Even if Jerry don't talk to agents, this is the second year in a row. Let's put a countdown on it. When is Jerry Jones gonna say David Mulugeta? When is he gonna say it? When is he gonna say David Mulugeta? Because I ain't heard him say it yet. Maybe he has, but I hadn't heard him say it. Robowski said Jerry not talking to Mulugeta's not crazy work. G is being petty work. Man, Robowski won't even say the man's name. He won't even say the man's name. Come on, man. Come on. Najee, you believe in this? Najee, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't recall the last time I heard somebody say they were, I never heard anybody say they were happy to play on a tag. The only way somebody would be happy to be on a tag is you would be telling them in this same conversation, hey, this is just a formality. We're going to put you on a tag, non-exclusive. Nobody comes out and offer. We're going to put a deal on the table, and it's going to be up for Mulugeta to answer the deal. We're going to put good money on the table. But at the end of the day, Najee, nobody's happy to be on a tag. Nobody's happy to be on a tag. I don't believe that. Nobody's happy to be on a tag. But I will agree with you on this. Jerry isn't allowing them to run over him. And this is why I said earlier, Jerry is resolved. Bottom line. Jerry's resolved. And again, I'm not looking at their history. I'm looking at what Jerry is doing. Jerry is resolved. I'm telling y'all, Jerry is resolved. Jerry has decided whether they sign George or they don't sign George. They're moving on. They're moving on. I'm telling you. They're moving on. This is bottom line. They're moving on. And I don't know any other way to tell us. That's the business. Rumbowski said if this all backfires and GP gets an offer that Dallas isn't willing to match, then will AOC be willing to admit he SYBAU'd himself? Oh, man. I'll tell you this. Rumbowski, like I told my wife today, I'm prepared for whatever happens now. I'm resolved. Just like Jerry is. Jerry is resolved. Bottom line. If they sign George, I believe Jerry's going to be ecstatic. But if they lose George, Jerry's going to be like, well, we couldn't come to an agreement. And most people will say, well, at least we got 2 first-round picks, and they'll be dancing in the streets. Najee. Now, this is fact. They all want the Cowboys to lose George Pickens. Everybody want, I ain't gonna say everybody. A lot of people want them to lose George Pickens. They do. They do. They do. A lot of people want them to lose them. But I'm just gonna tell you right now, they're resolved. Bottom line. Bottom line. And all Jerry is doing is trying to sugarcoat this because Jerry is trying to soften the blow of if it does start to go over or get crazy, just understand what his feelings are.
The drama that the Cowboys have had with some of these high-profile players over the last few years, do you anticipate this will be a little bit less dramatic in terms of the offseason and the cloud that it kind of creates?
I don't know what comes first. The substantive,
They're asking Jerry very simple questions, and Jerry is dancing around these answers. Because in the grand scheme of things, I listened to this part of this already. Jerry don't know what this is going to be. I'm telling y'all right now, listen to what I'm telling you, and I'm not telling you my opinion. I'm telling you the facts. The only one that's going to stop this drama is George Pickens. If George Pickens shows up to the voluntary workouts, no drama. If he works out with Dak Prescott, no drama. If he signs the tag, or I guess he don't have a choice or whatever the case on that, but well, he does have a choice. But if he signs the tag quickly, no drama. And if he works out with no deal and decides to play on no tag, no drama. This is the situation the Cowboys have put George Pickens in. And it's just a matter of what does everybody think? Because I even heard somebody say yesterday, and it just disgusted me, that they were saying that it wouldn't bode too well. They said it wouldn't bode too well if George don't show up. It's the business. It's no other way to say it. It's the business. I don't know any other way to put it. It's the business. And Jerry is explaining this is the business. And so this is why he can't answer these questions straight. He can't answer these questions the way that he wants to, because in the grand scheme of things, he don't know what this is going to be. You don't know what it's going to be.
Significance of the player's situation or the drama of a negotiation. Usually those happen when you have a more substantive player, and that is let's say, a perceived bigger difference maker. I really don't know how to do it and not have drama relative to is drama the agent and the team involved in a negotiation, years, money, the amount of involved and what have you. I will tell you that while we may lead the league in the perception of drama, it's not that other clubs in sports, period, not just the NFL, have some drama when it gets to signing or not signing or trading high-profile players. I don't view that. Any extra visibility that we have here would be something that would probably have the Cowboys at a little level higher of visibility or interest anyway. So to answer your question specifically, the lack of drama is not an issue and is not a concern of mine at all.
Troy Williams, I hope what you're saying is not true. I hope what you're saying is not true. But I understand what you're saying. You said, yeah, he's trying to act sorrowful because he knows what's coming with GP. This is what D Block is saying too. D Block is saying he don't think they're going to re-sign him. I'm hoping against hope that's not true. I'm hoping this thing gets done. I really am. I'm hoping this thing is going to get done. But at the end of the day, man, this is the business. I'm just telling y'all this is the business. George exceeded everyone's expectations. George, he exceeded everybody's expectations. And so here we are. Lil D Texas said nothing but a championship or Super Bowl. No more Kool-Aid talk. Not impressed about these politic talks. Yeah, I know. I understand what you're saying.
In any way, it's not. And we fresh off of Micah. Micah didn't happen because of the agent. Micah didn't happen because of anything. But Micah was so valuable that our opportunity to take what we got from Micah was just too much. I couldn't turn it down.
Y'all ready for this part? When I heard this part today, I said, wait a minute, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. was too much for Jerry Jones to turn down. I don't think most people would classify George Pickens at his position where Michael Parsons is in his position, because some people argue that Micah is the best historically. I think this is where D-Block is. That Jerry may be hoping that somebody offers 2 first-round picks for George Pickens, because could he not come back and give this same answer? 2 first-round picks was too much to turn down for George Pickens? Jerry just said, in the grand scheme of things, that it wasn't even about money. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about him not liking David Mulugeta. It wasn't about him and Michael Parsons getting personal. It was simply this simple. 2 first-round picks in Kenny Clark was too much for them to pass up. So what does that mean for George Pickens if somebody comes along and offers 2 first-round picks? Does it really matter what the money is? Does it really matter what the money is? Does it matter? What if a team, we're thinking, let me tell you how we're thinking. Yeah, if a team comes along and offers $25 million and 2 first-round picks for George Pickens, the Cowboys will simply match the $25 million and keep George Pickens. Well, what does Jerry think George Pickens is worth? He would obviously have to think that he's worth more than 2 first-round picks to turn down 2 first-round picks. But he's saying that Michael Parsons, 2 first-round picks and a player was too much to turn down. So do we really think George Pickens is at that place where people considered Michael Parsons? So we're saying that 2 picks wouldn't be enough for Jerry to say, we'll give up Michael Parsons. This is going to be very interesting. This is going to be very, very interesting. If somebody just comes along and say, hey, man, forget $40 million. We're just going to come along and offer, hey, how about we offer him $28 million? Will that be too much for Jerry to turn down 2 first-round picks? I'm telling y'all this thing with Jerry, man, this is all business, it sounds like to me. Big Ron Bowser said, he said, dang, this is such BS from Jerry. Sad thing is he's probably truly believes that even though a Micah trade pre-draft would have netted them even more. Yep. But Jerry is saying that was too much to turn down. So what's too much to turn down as it applies to George Pickens if somebody offers you, because the money ain't going to really matter to Dallas because they're not going to be paying the money, but they're going to get 2 first-round picks. This is... all I'm going to do, sit back and watch. Only one that can stop this is George Pickens. Only one that can stop it. Robert, what's going on, Robert? I know Seattle has, but I don't think the Texans have. Demetrius Noel said we got our answer. There you have it. I said it. It's about draft capital. Well, that's what he just said about Michael Parsons. Jerry said it was not the agent. It was not Michael. It was too much to turn down. So what about 2 first-round picks for a team that needs more draft capital?
So Micah, as far as enjoying him, he knows that we enjoy each other personally. And so I've never looked at it that way. That's a little harder to do now if you haven't done it any more than he's done it. And it's about your talent or it's about your career. That's a little more to do than, let's say, one of my negotiations over some of the things I've been involved in over these last 83 years. So my point is, I recognize that. I have absolutely nothing. When I think of Micah, I think of our best times. I think of our best years. And the reason I'm going into that is because I knew before we sat down that with the Pickens situation, that we were especially the same agent, but that was never personal. Never with Micah in any way, form, or fashion. And the frailties or the process of visiting with you guys and how I express myself and what we do, that can make it good reading or some reading sometime. All I'm saying is, I'm saying it because I want you to know I'm aware of it. I'm not interested in doing anything or saying anything. I want our George Pickens relationship to be all honey. Very, very well. That's good. I didn't say that because it sounds like I'm joking, but boy, that's pretty good. But seriously, I want it very clear that I can't tell you how positive we feel about it, and I would hope that our fans would look and say, you know, that's a lot of money they're putting out there relative to six.
Now, listen to what Jerry just said. This is a PowerPoint that Jerry is making. Jerry is saying that if George Pickens winds up not here, it's not our fault. Listen to this. He's not talking about a deal. He's talking about a franchise tag that George Pickens would be entitled to regardless, unless the Cowboys just want to let him walk away. Do we listen to what he's saying? Did you hear what he just said? This is crazy work. Listen to him.
83 years. So my point is, I recognize that I have absolutely nothing. When I think of Micah, I think of our best times. I think of our best years. And the reason I'm going into that is because I knew before we sat down that with the Pickens situation that we, especially the same agent, but that was never personal. Never with Micah in any way, form, or fashion. And the frailties or the process of visiting with you guys and how I express myself and what we do, that can make it good reading or some reading sometime. All I'm saying is I'm saying it because I want you to know I'm aware of it. I'm not interested in doing anything or saying anything. I want our George Pickens relationship to be all honey. Very, very, well, that's good. I didn't say that because it sounds like I'm joking, but boy, that's pretty good. But seriously, I want it very clear that I can't tell you how positive we feel about it, and I would hope that our fans would look and say, you know, that's a lot of money.
Did I not tell y'all? This is what's called programming. People are programming Cowboys fans to accept that if George Pickens gets lost, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault because they don't even, I don't know for sure, but the money that I'm sure he's talking about that they have on the table is the franchise tag. And he's saying that fans should look at the franchise tag that they have on the table for George Pickens as a sign that the Cowboys want George Pickens. So what would be the other alternative if you didn't want George Pickens? What dumb team would let a player like George Pickens walk away, whether they liked him or not, even if they hated him? You think they would just let him walk away? Stop it. I noticed something about people. The moment you start talking truth, they think you're talking negative. I'm just telling you the truth. This doesn't make sense. What team would let a player like George Pickens walk off into the sunset? Don't tag him, don't do nothing. Just let him walk off into the sunset. There is no way, even if you had crazy Antonio Brown and you had this situation, you would still be trying to get compensation. This don't even make logical sense. Jerry is just, I don't want to be blamed if we don't retain George. I don't want to be blamed. I'm telling you right now, they're resolved. This is resolved talk. They're resolved. I'm just telling you now, they're resolved. Patrick said if Dallas doesn't match, the signing team must compensate the Cowboys with 2 first-round picks as compensation for losing the players. Salary 2026, $27 million. And again, Patrick, Jerry is acting like them giving George Pickens the franchise tag is a sign to the fans that the Cowboys want George Pickens. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think of what the other alternative would be. Just to let him walk away? Man, ain't no team in their right mind gonna let a player like George Pickens walk away. There's no team in their right mind, even if they didn't like him, they wouldn't let George Pickens walk away and not try to seek compensation when they know full well they could get it. Man, come on, Jerry. All I'm telling y'all is this simple. Jerry is resolved. Whether they keep or they don't keep. I'll give Jerry all the credit in the world for that. This is not the mode that they've normally operated in. So this is a different way of operating for them. They normally just bow down to these agents. And I'm telling you now, I said this last year, Jerry has been battling these agents. They're trying to figure out a way not to be at the beck and call of these agents. And here we are again. I don't think this is about George Pickens. This is about Jerry Jones and these agents. And all these teams, believe me when I tell you, they're watching what Jerry is doing. Because they're trying to figure out, too, how to beat these agents. Because they're hard to beat. I understand what they're doing. But the collateral damage, unfortunately, is teams lose great players. Teams lose great players in the collateral damage. Rombowski said this is where Jerry becomes Jerry. To say Michael Ordeal wasn't personal. 100% BS, man. I have to agree with you, man. We know that was personal. Demetrius said it looks like propaganda. It's working very effectively. The Eagles are asking the first and the second for A.J. Brown. Yep. And I'm telling you now, people have painted George in such a bad light. It is crazy the light that people are painting George in is not even true. And I'm telling you, a lot of these people don't want the Cowboys to have George. I'm just telling you, they don't.
They're putting out there relative to 6 months ago. And you say, well, but you could put more out there. Well, let's all give some credit over here to how we each should be managing this. But I expect George, I expect him to have an outstanding year.
When the season ended, you mentioned about...
Now, do y'all notice how they keep talking about future? But I noticed what he said there, and I noticed how he said this quite a bit. We expect him to have a great year. And this is just telling me that if push come to shove, the Cowboys want George Pickens to play on the tag. And Jerry just explained that by the money we have out there. Patrick said again, because somebody said I'm being negative. The non-exclusive tag is a standard for a player like GP. Jerry is acting like, no, we're doing him a favor. We're doing him a favor by putting the franchise tag out there, and that's us showing that we really want GP. I'm sorry, anybody else can fall for this. I love the Cowboys, and for anybody to say I'm a Cowboy hater or negative, I don't know of anybody else who said the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl in 2026. As far as I know, I'm the only content creator been saying that, but I'm negative. I'm just telling the truth on this matter. I'm just telling the truth on this matter. That's all I'm doing. I'm telling the truth. I'm riding with the Cowboys even if they don't extend George Pickens. But that don't mean I'm not going to tell the truth in this matter.
Possibility of being more of a player in the offseason, free agency, things like that, potentially breaking the bank, you mentioned. Do you see this offseason being any different for you?
Now, for anybody who's listened to this interview, everything after the George Pickens conversation, everything else makes sense. Everything else makes sense, and everything is good after the George Pickens conversation. To me, that's when the interview got good. But the George Pickens conversation, I don't care what anybody says. That conversation was not good. That conversation was not good.
In terms of free agency?
Well, that's two questions. Do I see me ending up spending more money than maybe?
And again, Sebastian, this ain't negative. This is true. Jerry Jones expected Michael Parsons to play under the franchise tag. Wrong. So then the trade happened. And I'm telling y'all right now, George Pickens is going to be the one that determines where this goes. George determines this. George is going to determine it. If George goes to David Mulugeta and say, good, we're going to sign the tag, and I'm going to do everything. I'm going to OTAs, voluntary. I'm going to play this year out, and I'm going to put up another great year, and then we'll see where it goes. George makes that decision. George makes that decision. But if I'm telling us right now, and this is why I prepared myself. But if George says, David, do you do what you need to do? Well, I'm preparing myself. I'm preparing myself for the Cowboys to be without George Pickens. I'm preparing myself.
If you put a perfect picture together, that the guy that's back there looking at the account would say we don't have any or don't have enough. I could see me being aggressive. I could see us being aggressive in free agency. And by the very virtue of having two number ones, we're going to spend more money in the draft than normally you would spend, even though we don't have the two. Everybody knows those two ones are dramatically different than a two financially. So we'll spend money. It'll be like the time that when I first got involved, they had a deal called Plan B. And that was a free agency, kind of a start toward free agency. And every team had to expose so many players. And I was so proud of the fact of how much money, I think the figure was over $2 million at the time. But I was so proud of how much money I think we outspent everybody in Plan B. And I was very proud of that. You have no idea how that cut into my available funds at the time. I have no idea. But I am excited about doing everything we can now to really have a better record than we had last year, a better team than we had last year. That's why we've been doing what we've been doing with coaching staff. But to answer your question specifically, I would bet that we will spend more money in free agency than we have.
Spending more money, around here, pushing all these troops.
This is where I think the Cowboys are going to try to make their move. I think the Cowboys are going to try to make their move defensively. This is the part where Cowboy fans can get excited. They're going to be serious about defense. They're going to be serious about defense. Now the question becomes, and all of this is going to come to fruition next week. They've been talking about busting the budget. They've been talking about free agency. Jerry said they're going to spend more than last year. The proof is going to be in the pudding on day one. Let me see here. All of this is going to come to fruition sooner than later. Let's see here. NFL free agency officially begins March the 11th. The legal tampering period is going to be Monday, March the 9th. So we're going to see if we hear the Cowboys' name early on as it applies to these deals. Because a lot of these teams, they get these deals done on March the 9th. The only thing they can't do is sign them. They already get this stuff going. They get this stuff going quick. So everything that Jerry is saying, we're going to see come March the 9th.
And the two different things, and I think you made reference to saying, that postseason they're going to bust the budget. There's a difference between being more aggressive and busting the budget. You know what I'm saying?
Well, we're semanticking.
Yes, semanticking.
Yes, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. First of all, I want you to know that the only way to push more is for me to go borrow some of my future.
Which Jerry has already started doing. They've already reworked contracts. They're going to have to rework more, though, to be able to play in free agency.
Okay. Expect me to go borrow some of my future.
He's already done it.
So that's one representation that you're thinking of now as opposed to in the future. But I look at things, frankly, beyond that. I look at where we are with Dak, and I look at where he is in his career. And I look at some of the pluses that we have on our front and what we think we can do there and what we can do with Pickens and Lamb and what we can do with our running back that we just signed. And so all of those things, I want to do everything we possibly can to stop somebody and to basically win some third downs more than we did last year. And so I think that would be the area that you would see me bust the budget, whoever said that earlier. That would where you would see me do that is what we're doing defensively. And I would expect anybody that's a Cowboy fan or a critic of the Cowboys to say, duh, that's not hard to see, Jerry, to do. But I guess what I'm doing is saying, yes, I intend to do that if given the opportunity.
Yeah. See, Jerry's already started to do this part. See, I'm telling you, this is the part where Cowboy fans can be excited. They're going to do something on this defense. This is where they're going to put all of their emphasis this coming season, off season, free agency and the draft. And I've already coined this year the year of the defense. The Cowboys are going all in defensively. They're going all in defensively. Even understand this. If the Cowboys were to not retain George Pickens and get those 2 first-round picks, see, Jerry can tell me anything he want to, but I noticed that Jerry has got this out there early so that if a team were to get George Pickens, I'm pretty sure that first-round pick would be this year and the other one would be next year. And so the Cowboys would have 3 first-round picks. And with this draft being loaded with defensive players, I'm sure the Cowboys would load up defensively. They would get them 3 picks in the first round on defense. The Cowboys are going to do some business defensively. I think this is where they are going to be. And we'll see what happens if they don't have George Pickens and what that answer is. But I'm telling this right now. This is where Cowboy fans can be excited. They're going to give this defense a whole lot of attention because they want Christian Parker to be successful. Because Christian Parker has done the same thing I believe Brian Schottenheimer did when they hired Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer, he talked a really good plan. He talked about culture. He talked about ways he could improve the Cowboys franchise. And so they saw the vision. They went out and got him Javonte. They went out and got him Tyler Booker. They went out and got him George Pickens. They went out defensively and they made some moves. They made a mistake with Matt Eberflus, but they thought they were making some good moves. But nevertheless, they really made a big push on offense, a really, really big push on offense for Brian Schottenheimer. This year, they're going to do the same thing defensively. They're going to make a huge push for Christian Parker because they're impressed with his IQ. They're impressed with his plan. They're impressed by everything as it applies to Christian Parker. They're impressed by his staff. They're going to get him everything that he needs to win. This is the part where Cowboy fans can be excited. The defense is going to be, I believe, the defense is going to be better sooner than later. It's going to be better sooner than later. The Cowboys still got work to do, though. They still got work to do. They have already reworked some contracts. They still got to do some more. They got to get more money. And this is one of the reasons why people think it's personal with George Pickens. This is one of the reasons why I want the Cowboys to extend George Pickens too. You don't want that $28 million. You don't want that $28 million coming directly off the cap. If you extend George Pickens, you got enough money for another player that you can get on defense. Man, we don't want $28 million coming directly off the cap. We don't want that. No, we want to extend George Pickens. We don't want addition by subtraction. We don't want Brandon Aubrey gone. We don't want George Pickens gone. The only thing we want to do is fix our offensive tackle situation. That's what we want to fix. We want Jaden Blue. We want Phil Maffa to improve and be more of a part of this offense. We want Schoonmaker to make a step before the Cowboys have to decide whether or not they're going to cut him or not. We want the offense to improve and subtract nothing from it. We don't want to subtract nothing from it because the Cowboys are going to go all in on defense. They're going to go all in on defense. The Cowboys so far, $66 million is what the Cowboys have done so far. I don't know if the figures have updated yet. See how far the Cowboys are up under the cap. But this is where the Cowboys are going to do damage. They're going to be serious about defense. So again, and this is what I told you earlier, the Cowboys got a lot more work to go, guys. If the reports are true, the Cowboys have a lot more work to do. The Cowboys are only $10 million under the salary cap. They're only $10 million under the salary cap. So they have to get more. They're now going to have to go and restructure more deals. The next 3 deals they're going to work on, it's going to be Kenny Clark, Quentin Williams, also Diggy Zua. Also, Diggy I believe they can push money into the void years. Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams, they can put void years in Kenny Clark's deal. The problem with putting void years in Kenny Clark's deal, and I don't know if it's a huge problem, but they got to talk to Kenny Clark and his agent about putting the void years in his contract. Quentin Williams, the Cowboys need an extension on Quentin Williams. I would not be surprised if you hear about an extension for Quentin Williams over the next few weeks. The Cowboys need an extension there. But also understand, as it applies to busting the budget, follow Jerry Jones' line of thinking. Extend Brandon Aubrey. Extend George Pickens. Extend Quentin Williams. Redo also Diggy Zua. And Kenny Clark is probably going to require maybe some kind of extension. Now, understand, those contracts will be a part of the budget that Jerry is talking about busting. Because Quentin needs he doesn't need a restructure. He needs an extension. Quentin Williams needs an extension. George Pickens, extend him. You're going to automatically save money under the cap on him. Probably around $20 million. Extend him. Brandon Aubrey, you're going to save money under the cap automatically. So the Cowboys got a lot more work to do. They're only $10 million under the cap. You can't play in free agency with $10 million. They're going to have to do more. So over the next couple of days, we're going to hear more and more of the Cowboys reworking these deals. But defense is going to be their focus.
Or the draft, what position on defense do you feel like you need to address the most?
Well, that's the diabolical situation. We need more than one good football player, more than two good football players.
Now do y'all understand why I said after the George Pickens conversation, this is where the interview got good. Did y'all notice? George Pickens, Jerry never gave a direct answer. Jerry didn't give one direct answer with George Pickens. After George Pickens, Jerry Jones. Precise, direct answers. Very precise. And I think this is one of the biggest truths that Jerry told, and he told some big truths, I believe, in this interview. Jerry is not in la-la land as it applies to the defense. He's not in la-la land. Jerry knows full well they need edge, linebackers, corners, safeties. Jerry knows full well. And I love Jerry's use of words. Jerry used a word that we can all understand. I'm giving Jerry all the credit in the world. Jerry said, that's where it's diabolical. Jerry said it's diabolical. Because it is. It is diabolical. And this is why, Cowboys fans, people think this is personal for me. I guess it is personal because I want the Cowboys to win. Because I know what the Cowboys need. I don't want them to not sign. I want them to sign George Pickens because we don't know how much they're going to be able to get. That's the issue. We don't know how much they're going to be able to get. Jerry just told us, man. Jerry said this is where it gets diabolical. Boy, I don't know if Jerry's told the truth that hard. Man, let's listen to this again.
Me, bust the budget. Whoever said that earlier. That was where you would see me do that is what we're doing defensively. And I would expect anybody that's a Cowboy fan or a critic of the Cowboys to say, duh, that's not hard to see, Jerry, to do. But I guess what I'm doing is saying, yes, I intend to do that if given the opportunity.
You look at whether it be through free agency or the draft, what position on defense do you feel like you need to address the most?
Well, that's the diabolical situation.
Jerry said that's the diabolical situation. Boy, you know what? Dominique Pittman, you still on here? Dominique Pittman, I'm going to tell you something, man. I might have to retract the statement I made about Jerry Jones. If I'm listening to Jerry Jones right, I still think the expectation is to win. But Jerry doesn't seem to be in la-la land that it may take this thing a year to get it to where they want it to be defensively. Because when you use the term diabolical as it applies to how many players you need on defense, that is you understanding exactly where you are, man. Yeah. TJ Hudson, I hope you're not telling the truth. He said GP will walk off into the sunset because of his agent. He said, y'all saw Michael, that man missed Dallas during the Pro Bowl. He was with the Dallas players and the media nonstop, but his agent wanted max pay. And understand, TJ, I'm telling you the truth. The only one that can stop this is George Pickens. Michael Parsons could have stopped David Mulugeta anytime he wanted to. If George Pickens tells David Mulugeta, do what you do, well, then we better be prepared for GP not to be here. But I think George Pickens can. I'm just telling you, I'm giving George Pickens the benefit of the doubt until I cannot give it to him. I think George Pickens, I don't think George Pickens is going to ask to break the bank. I think he wants to be here. And I think he's going to be willing to accept $33 million, $34 million to stay with the Cowboys. I do. At least that's what I'm hoping. Because he's going to be the only one that can stop this. He's the only one that can stop it. But I'm laughing, man. Jerry said this is the diabolical part right here. Hallelujah. He said the look on his face. That says it all, don't it? Hallelujah.
We need more than one good football player, more than two good football players.
Yep.
Additional. That's not to say everything is
Amen,
about our
Najee.
personnel.
Amen.
Because if I've ever, on postmortem, if I have ever evaluated anything that had to have everybody, starting with me, contribute to what we did defensively last year, which was really at the bottom. I've never seen a more contributing group than everybody. And not trying to be any way, but certainly I contributed to it. I had an exceptional want to that we were going to have a Overshown back quicker, that we were going to have a Ravel back quicker, that we were going to do some things with linebackers by bringing them in, and we had a lot of things that we put a lot of let's say credibility to being able to do that didn't pan out for us. And
I love this. So y'all listening to what Jerry is telling y'all? Jerry is telling us, I failed. I'm telling y'all, it is insane to me how Jerry gets so this after the George Pickens conversation, this Jerry Jones interview has to be one of the best I've heard. This is one of the best I've heard once you get past George Pickens. Jerry is just laying down point after point after point. He failed. Bottom line, Jerry is telling you I failed last year.
That's not the individual players. Individual players play better when the people around them are playing better, which means knowing what to do and not having to think about it and go be as aggressive as you can. They play better. And so this not only caused some guys that may have not been up to what we thought they'd be, but performance-wise in a play, in a quarter, not necessarily indicting anybody over the year at all. I'm going to great pains not to do that, because if it were just a matter of a few holes, it would be different. It's not the case. And so it's very important that we start off with being more realistic, yours truly, on if we've got injury coming back, be a little more realistic that he's not going to be there for the fourth game, or he's going to be there at certain interval, he's going to be there. That's not to say addressing anything with the skill level of a player, which we can improve on, obviously, or putting a better scheme and coaching better technique and creating an atmosphere of can do, want to do, that when you it's going the other way on you, it becomes negative.
Jerry's admitting failure. the hiring of Matt Eberflus. He's admitting failure. Bottom line, he's admitting failure. I appreciate it, Jerry. I appreciate it. Yeah, he's in reality of what happened last year, what they need this year defensively. He's in reality.
And there's no question over the last several months when we've been putting this coaching staff together, I have seen the result of what happens when it starts going the other way on you. And you can take some good, really good players and not have them play at their level because of how they're playing as a team in general. Y'all are tired of this old one. But when I was a junior, we won 5 and lost 5 in the Southwest Conference and had one player make the Southwest Conference. Less than 3 or 4 months later, the exact same team went out there with just the addition of one player. And after our 4th game, I think we weren't scored on again. We won the national championship, only undefeated team in the country. Only one. And we had 20, same guys, make the All-Southwest Conference team. And we had one the year before.
Lil D, touche. I hear exactly what you're saying, Lil D, touche. Yep. There's another part of this conversation too. Maybe they're saying with a better defense and even without George Pickens, we're going to put a little bit more on Dak Prescott, but we can handle it. You never know. I'm hoping, though, that this all pans out and GP gets extended, not just a franchise tag, but extended, because I don't want this same issue to be coming up next year. Just get it done and move on.
Same guys. But everybody just not only got better by their surroundings and the enthusiasm, but they got better because you just do better when things are successful around you. And it really manifests itself in something as physical and as really mentally demanding as NFL pro football.
You need a 2005 draft.
Yeah, Bernard Fields. You and Rose, welcome to the congregation tonight. Bernard Fields. You're exactly right. GP better take a page out of T. Higgins' playbook. And Bernard, this is where I am. GP is the one that's going to control all this. George Pickens can control this. Bottom line, he can. George can control this. He can. George can tell his agent what he's going to do. He can tell him, hey, you're either going to like this. You can either be my agent and do what I tell you, or I'll get me someone else. I want to be with the Cowboys. I'm willing to play for I'm willing to play for $32 million. I'm willing to guaranteed of 60, 65 million, whatever the case may be. George is going to be able to control all of this, even whether or not he plays on the tag. Now, again, it's going to boil down to if he does what Micah does and say, I'm just going to listen to my agent. This is on, and I hate it, but it's true. It's on GP. It's on GP. Bottom line, it's on GP. But again, man, Jerry, after the George Pickens conversation, he's on point.
To make it that much better.
Well, that's hoping for too much. That's what I'm trying to avoid, is thinking that it is 2005, and these picks we're going to end up having a defense put together. We've got to use we were just talking to the guys upstairs, and we've got to watch out, saying, well, let's maybe get more numbers. That happens if you trade back some. I'm not saying we won't trade back, but that happens when you trade back some. Well, if you say, well, we need numbers, well, don't do that to the extent that you end up with guys that, because they're going to be on the field more than likely, and we can't do that with guys that don't give us a chance. We can't redshirt second round pick. We don't have a second round pick to begin with, but if we got one, we can't redshirt those guys this year. We got to go. Answers.
I thought this was another powerful statement Jerry made. I thought this was another powerful statement by Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is saying he doesn't mind trading back, but Jerry is saying he would rather stay in pat on the first round picks and get players that we know that's going to play now. Because Jerry is saying no more developing players. We don't want no second and third round players talking about they're not going to play this year. We don't want players that we're talking about developing. We want players that's going to be on the field right now. I'm just telling you, Jerry is laying it down. I like what he's saying. Rumbowski, he said no NFL players have to play on the tag. I mean, I don't agree. Rumbowski, I don't believe for a second GP is happy to play on the tag. If GP does so in 26, gets hurt, then he loses his value in negotiation power in 2027. He ends up resenting Dallas and other top free agents. Watch it all unfold too. I agree. I don't. Jerry may be playing semantics, but I don't think GP, man, no player would be happy playing on the doggone franchise tag, man. No player would be happy playing on the franchise tag unless he thought that was the best he could get. Now you said, I think it benefits Dallas that GP had those terrible years in Pittsburgh. He ain't trying to end up in a situation like that again. And Najee, I'm going to tell you, man, George Pickens and his crew and his camp are doing a great job. Nothing has actually leaked out about any contracts. And so nobody can really play with George Pickens in the court of public opinion. They can't even play with him in the court of public opinion. So everybody's going to have to sit back and wait. I love what he's doing, but at the end of the day, George is in control. Sebastian said, hometown discount, that's a try. Fools always take the most money. All right, let's check out some old Jerry, man. Jerry's breaking it down. I love it.
That's part of an example of your question. We got to go this year. We got to have it out there. We got to be working it this year. This staff we put together. One thing I like about them is they're training at the bits. And this old stuff of looking ahead at a career years and years in advance. They're too young for that. They're looking at yesterday and thinking about tomorrow's eternity. I like it. We didn't start out to have young coaches, don't get me wrong. But when you got a young head coach, which we do, and then you've got some supporting cast that he had a lot of success with last year that are relatively young, then it doesn't surprise me that as we evaluated all of the players, I need help on a number. How many total interviews did we have? 40 total interviews. And having said that, we did that because we wanted the exposure. We wanted to see what was there, and there are the kinds of things that can come about when it's your time, or you think it's your time and go try it. I think we're going to, that rule today here.
How difficult will that be to get the draft picks and free agents?
It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for us to be where we want to be defensively. Now, I don't want to imply that we've got anything set up and are blowing out the candles on the offense. We've got a lot of work to do over there. But this will be a real big challenge. We've got players that are better than they looked that will be playing on our defense this year that were Cowboys. They'll be better than they look this year. I predict that. And because they'll be surrounded by a more positive situation out there. No, I don't have expectations that we're going to come out of here and attain line them up with DeMarcus Lawrence in the Super Bowl. Okay.
Again, Jerry's making another great point. Jerry is saying that he's not in La La Land and that he's not expecting this team to go to the Super Bowl. Sounds like what he's saying to me. That he knows they need work. They're going to need time. They're going to need players. They're going to need time. Everything's going to need a little time to bake. So I don't think another 7-win season is going to be tolerated. But I do think that Jerry is saying, but the defense is going to need a little leeway. They're going to need a little leeway. They're going to need some time to get where we want them to be. And he even said even the offense still needs work. So it looks like Jerry, without saying it so much, he may be content with another year of getting ready for the 2027 run. That sounds like what he's saying. Miss Baker said this agent drama is reminding me of that show, Ballers. Yep. Makes me wonder, are Reggie's not a thing anymore for players? Do they not have one talking sense into? Yeah, do they not have someone talking sense into them? You know, Miss Major, one of the things that I've noticed about these agents is that some of these agents take on a father figure role in these guys' life, or they take on a big brother role in these guys' life, and they're just listening totally to the agent. I think you need to have somebody other than your agent that you listen to so that you can kind of balance things out. But a lot of these guys, they listen to their agent. Demetrius said, this is really playing games with the fans. You don't answer a single question about GP, but all of a sudden you wide awake. Demetrius, I'm telling you. I'm probably the only one of this opinion. This interview didn't get good until after the George Pickens stuff. Because the George Pickens stuff was a bunch of mumbo jumbo to me. But after the George Pickens stuff, oh no, Jerry tore it up after the George Pickens stuff. This interview got great after George Pickens.
But I will tell you, the fact they did do that, it should be a very encouraging thing, and it is for all of us. It should be in the NFL. But I think, let me put it like this. With what we did on that side of the ball, specifically last year, I believe we have such room for improvement that if I could sit here and get smug about sitting here with you this time next year and saying we make a 50% improvement, okay, we need more than that.
Seeing him win the Super Bowl, seeing him win the Super Bowl, when you're rooting for him, how do you feel about that? The guy who basically made the bones here in Dallas, like around 11 years, he goes for Super Bowl's first year.
I don't know. Of course, I did attend. I don't know if anybody wanted him to come out there with a win any more than I did. He deserves that. He was an outstanding individual, outstanding player, and deserved everything he had coming. Last year with us, the year before, was a very tough year. He fought injury. He bet on himself. He basically stepped up there, and I personally would like to think that he was the difference maker, not any less than Ware was when he went over to Denver. And you can't spend your life. We spend a lot of years together, and can't get to be with people like that and not root for them when they've got a chance to do something special. And I'm proud of him. I'm proud to have been a part of his career, and I'm proud he won that Super Bowl.
Who are the young guys you talked about that were on the defense line?
Another PowerPoint by Jerry Jones. Another PowerPoint. The fact that he said he was proud of DeMarcus Lawrence. Thought that was very classy by Jerry. Very, very, again, just listen, Demetrius. Another direct answer from Jerry. Everything after the George Pickens situation is very direct, very, very concise, and I would dare say some very great answers and some of the greatest answers I've heard Jerry give in an interview. And again, class act of Jerry to have nothing but positive things to say about DeMarcus Lawrence. Way to take the high road, Jerry.
This year that you think will make a jump or be appreciably better?
Well, I think that Overshawn will be healthier when we start. I'm not trying to be trite, but I think he will be healthier when we start. Ravel will be healthier when we start. I'm mentioning them because the health issue had a lot to do with them being able to elevate from the way they, what they totally for the season did last year as opposed to this year. I think they'll be, our defensive end. I think scheme as well as just his ethics, his work ethic, his striving for improvement, and then our evaluation of him as a pass rusher. I think we can look forward to a better year there. We're counting on it and can have it. I like our move with our linebacker going out to outside there, Maris, and I like that move right there. I think those are going to be players that will have every reason in the world to have better years around a more productive system. I really like what we're doing with our defensive line personnel, and how we are maximizing the benefit of having the outstanding numbers we got, plus our backup to them. So I like where we're starting with our defensive line. I like our pressure. Doesn't mean at all we won't be active in this draft in that area. We can be. And I think that we can, frankly, through just an assessment of how we did it this year, have better linebacking play. As you know, we're going to try to be a combination of a 3-4 and a 4-3. And that's very doable. Of all of the things that I spent most of my time on during this offseason and looking and evaluating and visiting with prospective coaches was the 4-3 concept, the 3-4 concept, how to create flexibility, how to do both, beginning with the personnel that we've got on the field. I'm satisfied that we can coach that. And I'm satisfied the kinds of things they need outside linebacker, pass rusher type that he can basically do some assisting on drops when called on, but you don't want to spend 100% of your time doing that. We'll get the pressure from him that we want to have too. I didn't want to create and have somebody become let's say a flat pass defense player or drop back when they've got outstanding pass rusher quality. I think we've got that.
Again, Jerry continues to be concise. I mean, as he's talking about this defense, I mean, he knows exactly what it is, exactly where they need to improve. You know, he's tempered his expectations. I mean, Jerry is being dead on. And this is the very reason why I believe if there is one thing I believe they're going to do, they're going to put together a killer defense. The Cowboys are about to put together an absolute killer defense. Demetrius Noel, I like something you said here. Winning the Super Bowl is incidental for 27 teams. Only 5 teams are sincerely trying to win the Super Bowl every year. That tells you only 23% of the players won a Super Bowl before they get their big payday. You know, and to add on to that, because it's probably not realistic for a lot of them to get a Super Bowl before they get that big payday, because look at Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jackson Smith and Jigba's in a weird situation. I mean, the Seattle Seahawks already got a Super Bowl. I mean, they could really play hardball with him on a contract extension. Lil D said no more players under David Mulligetta and stay away from injured players, especially draft picks. Lil D Texas, you know the only problem is? Every time David Mulligetta gets another player a huge deal, players want to be with David Mulligetta. Timothy Golden, he said, here we go with the offseason drama. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping we come to a solution to these things after the free agency, kind of that first part of free agency. Ron Hanna said both tackle positions could use an upgrade. I think so too. Guyton should move to right tackle, and Terrence Steele can go. He's a bigger liability than Guyton. And I think they're going to give him another opportunity. Rennie Zanguini, what's going on? Good to see you. All right, let's do some more Jerry. Man, he's killing it after that George Pickens part of the conversation.
That you have on the roster already, and the immediate need for impact on defense and the redshirt players. Has your evaluation of prospects that have maybe had a red flag changed over the last couple of years based on the results that you've seen?
Well, very much. We can't have any red shirts.
Yeah.
People would have red shirts here. Now, you have red shirts if it's something that happens to you that's out of control. But to plan on, we'll see you 6 weeks into the season, see you in the future after a rehab program, a player that you're really putting stock in at a certain time that's, let's say, recovering from college injury relative to a draft. You'll see less of that this year than maybe you've seen in the past. I've got we have. I've got a pretty good track record of on that second pick, redshirt, and that second pick from time to time when we can get a good player. Okay, you won't see that this year.
Whoa! Timothy Govin, did you hear that? Jerry just said something that every Cowboys fan should be excited about. Jerry said, we're not getting no injured players this year. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Jerry. Stop getting these doggone project players, as in they're coming off an injury and we're going to give them a year. I mean, what do we got? Jalen Smith. We got Savon Revel Jr. this year. I mean, we had Leighton Vander Esch, if I'm not mistaken, Sean Lee injured coming out of college. I mean, the Cowboys have a history of going with these players, taking chances. Jerry said, so again, it sounds like Jerry is saying it's going to take some time, but it's also like he's saying, but anybody who we get in this draft in the first round, they got to be ready to hit the ground running now. And we're not even trying to get back in the second round. We want these 2 first-round picks, and we want some impact players to play now. Bravo, Jerry. Bravo. Yep. Like it.
I made a point several times this offseason about making here and making changes, how you do business to get better results. 83. What does that look like for you? Was it outside of being more aggressive, crazy? What does that look like? How are you changing? What are you changing?
Well, I don't see anything that's out of reach for our fans. And I'm like our fans. I want to walk up there and get the last game trophy. I'd like to go get that. My experience has been, in reality, you've got to build toward that to some degree, but to some degree it can happen. It can happen with some current good decisions that work. Decisions that are made the very year that you're going to do most of your competing to get in a Super Bowl. The teams that are in it this year did that. Like I say, that's motivating. It's very motivating. I will tell you that when you're 83, it's kind of like we had a great Larry Lacewell, and we had these arm length and height restrictions. And you remember his great line, when we start recruiting them to change light bulbs, and we'll think about that height a little bit, but we're not asking to reach up there and change light bulbs without a ladder. So there's a different thing we're going to use these players for. I don't need to do it, but this year, and I'll go to the top of the list of the ones that have recently won a Super Bowl. Think about that a minute. Okay? I could do it one time. I'm doing the I because we all know I don't do it. I have a big part in it, but I don't do it. I can do it one time, okay, and win a third of the Super Bowls that I've ever gotten a chance to be a part of and won. So there is a magnificent opportunity to absolutely, if I want to look at a record. But the most important thing, starting tonight or starting a month ago or starting when we finished our season off, the most important thing, I see no reason at all that we can't accomplish something that, from my perspective or our fans' perspective, that you'd expect me to want to do. I certainly believe in myself as far as contributions I've got. If I've been making every decision around here for the last 35 years, then we ought to worry about it. Okay, I haven't made every decision. We have absolutely had a consensus on most decisions that have been made around here. Now, because we decide to quit taking a vote in some areas and just decide, let's nail it, that's changing the way you operate. And so, yeah, you can see some things done differently there. Just like I just said, redshirting guys in the second round hasn't worked for us in general. We had a couple that it worked for, okay? Going with a big character issue. We've had some success with that, but I've had a lot of times when there was not success with it too. You got there you have to assess and change. The other thing I want to say this: when you made as many mistakes as I made, okay, and still live to tell about it, mistakes don't scare you like you might think they do, because you know you're going to have a chance to make another decision to get it done. And so I don't wear my mistakes around like I'm leading the world in mistakes. I look over there at the times that I've had one go right, and so that's too much me. That's too much philosophy. But you ask it about me. I have had experience with doing it differently and winning, and I mean winning the prize. So I believe in that, and I live with it. I feel good. This is my 35th or 36th combine up here in that many years, and I've got a lot of old friends around here somewhere out here. But the point is that I can't tell you how much it's meant to me to get to be a part of this thing over these years, and how much it means to me to get to be sitting here on this bus, talking to you guys about my contribution to building this team. And I think about all the names and all the faces that aren't sitting here, that aren't in Indianapolis. Now that'll make you that'll count your blessings right there, and plus really able to sit here and really have the mentality to do it.
I so wish Jerry would have had this mentality about 10, 15 years ago. I'm going to tell y'all right now, the Cowboys absolutely had a window with Dak Prescott. I believe the Cowboys, this isn't the Cowboys' first window to win a Super Bowl with Dak Prescott. I think the Cowboys made a vital mistake when Dak Prescott first came into this league. The Dallas Cowboys, while Dak Prescott was up under a 4th round draft pick salary, the Cowboys should have loaded up players around Dak Prescott then. They should have had like huge contracts, the best players they could get around Dak Prescott at that time, and Jerry failed. Jerry even could have signed Dak Prescott a couple of years early, rather than letting Jimmy Garoppolo and players like that get signed before Dak Prescott. They made huge mistakes with Dak Prescott in the beginning. Had a great window. Well, now Jerry, if you're listening to him explain himself, I think Jerry is referencing the Matt Eberflus debacle, for example. Quickly rectified that. Season over. Fired him. Corrected that mistake. This is where Jerry seems to be now. We're going to correct mistakes quicker rather than waiting for them to play out. I'm loving this. And I want to see it to continue to play out as it pertains to these players. I'm excited about this draft. I'm excited about this free agency even more so because I believe free agency for the Cowboys is really going to be the tail of the tape. Wait a minute. Let me see what my sister is. Let me see what Miss Man. Rod Hatter said, Lord have mercy, we've been General Hospital for players about time. We need guys out the gate ready to play. Wait a minute. This man said, oh, Jerry, stop it. Mister, I supposed to know what it went to get Trey Lance because I'm the boss consensus. You was lying when you were lying. Now I'm going with both. Yeah, he made that Trey. He made that Trey Lance thing on his own. But it sounds like Steven was complicit in that. Because Steven said if they could do it all over again, they'd do it again. Lil D, is Tober still on the team? Free agent. I think he's a free agent. If I'm not mistaken, Tobert is a free agent. But again, I'm just telling you, Jerry's giving some great answers on a lot of these questions.
The strongest desire you've ever had to get another Super Bowl?
I don't think I've ever had one that if I had my goals and it didn't involve health of loved ones, family, and friends. Exception to there. Okay, I don't want to be too material about anything. Okay, I've never had anything that I can do something about that I would be willing to do it. That has as big a prize to me. It's every bit the prize that I thought it would be the first time that I was on the team that won the Super Bowl. It's every bit the prize. It's every bit the prize of anything I have, with the exception of family, any love, and for family. So I guess what I would say is, make no mistake about it, I don't have a higher priority than to go and win a Super Bowl. And I'm very aware. You guys know I pay all the attention in the world with the things that you write about and the things that the issues that are around. I'm not one of these guys that doesn't listen to radio. I'm not one of these guys that doesn't read the paper. I read it all. I do. And when I read it all, it motivates me to basically have some good things said. But I also will tell you that there's never been a time, like I just told you, a conversation about when I was a junior, and I couldn't even go back to my hometown. We were so embarrassed and ashamed that we just won 5 games when I was a Razorback. We let everybody down. Really was, a shame. And we came back and got them all.
Do you feel like, just thinking back on that, did you let the Cowboys fans down? Just not winning 30 years, 79, whatever it was last year. Or do you feel you let Cowboys fans down by not having success you had in 90?
Yes.
Standing ovation for Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones said he felt like he let Cowboy fans down. Wow. Wow. I'm telling you, man, Jerry hit me with this one. You can see the sincerity in the eyes of Jerry. Jerry hit me with this one, man. I got to admit it, guys. Jerry hit me with this one. I just don't remember a time I've heard Jerry be this candid. I just don't remember a time. And I believe even with the George Pickens thing, I'm going to say this like this. I think Jerry understands in the grand scheme of things what's going on with George Pickens. And the reason why I believe that Jerry is resolved is because Jerry has seen this before. And this is why I believe Jerry is preparing himself better than he did with Michael Parsons. Man, Jerry can tell me anything he wants to, Big Rombowski, talking about it wasn't personal. Losing Michael Parsons hurt Jerry personally. I think it hurt Jerry more personally than it did hurting him not being on the team. I think it hurt Jerry personally because I believe that they're both a lot alike. I think it hurt. I think it hit him. I think it hit him. And so now this thing with George Pickens, Jerry, that first part, I just think he's trying to sugarcoat, but he's understanding the situation. There's a possibility that we're going to lose George Pickens. Jerry can tell us anything he wants to, guys, but Jerry is resolved and understands, depending upon how David Mulugeta and George Pickens wants to play this, they could lose George Pickens. Even if nobody makes an offer for George Pickens, they can make this thing hell for the Dallas Cowboys the same way or in a different way than Michael Parsons did. You don't have to be out there eating nachos and laying on the tables. There are other ways to skin a cat. Jerry knows what's going on. And that's why he was like he was in the beginning. And now when you get to this part, Jerry is telling some of the truths of truths. Jerry realizes, man, I was talking about this on the Wednesday night class. Man, let me tell you something about mortality. Mortality will open your eyes in ways that cataract surgery and bifocals and trifocals can't. Mortality will open up your eyes in ways, man, that Coke bottle glasses can't. Jerry wants that last Super Bowl, guys. I'm telling you. And this is why we're hearing the repentance of Jerry Jones. We're hearing the repentance of Jerry Jones. And now he's trying to do something about it. Jerry's trying to do something about it. I give it to him. He's trying to do something about it. And I think he's admitting something, whether we realize it or not. As far as keeping George Pickens, it's probably not a lot. They have some things in place, but in the grand scheme of things, they really can't control how this all turns out. The only thing the Cowboys can control is themselves. And I teach people, when you get in tight situations, control what you can control, yourself. And so this is what they're doing. But I'm telling you right now, man, death is coming for everybody. Death is coming for everybody. Whether you believe in God or not, death is coming for you. And when you get to that point, when you know death is knocking on that door, man, you start thinking about legacy, accomplishments, and family. And Jerry doesn't want to go out like Willie Lump Lump. Jerry wants to go out with a Super Bowl, I'm telling you. And I love Jerry in this mode. I just wish Jerry would have been in this mode about 15 years earlier. Shoot, but I'm telling you, man. Rose, you talking about Jerry? You talking about Jerry sleepy? Hey, man, Rose, Jerry might be sleepy, but he's also feeling mortality too.
Yes, I do.
Man said he failed.
I know that my way of addressing it, which would be just what I'm sitting here talking to you about to go do it, is the best way to correct it. The thing that I would want our fans to know is how much input that I have into what goes on when they see a ball snapped or a play.
What up, my man Chanel?
Third-party
what up?
input. And I have a reputation of not of, we'll get that guy, we'll do that. It's the opposite of that. Ask anybody that's ever been around, anybody. Jimmy, Parcells, name any of them as far as coaches.
That's it, Demetrius.
Go back, can't talk to Larry, of course, but you can talk to some of those guys in there. I scraped the floor trying to get some information to make the best decision that we can. Hats off, it's highly competitive. Other clubs have done better. I got my, what kick the other day when I said
Did y'all hear what Jerry said? Boy, let me tell you something, boy. Jerry said other teams have done it better. Woo! Talk, Jerry. Talk. I hope this materializes into Cowboys getting great personnel and winning. I hope it does.
I wanted to win Super Bowls. Well, I really can't accept just the thought of winning one Super Bowl and then one. I've got more time on my clock than that in my mind. And so I don't see it that way. I see a chance to put a team together and basically be knocking at the edge and get another one or get a chance at another one. It runs that way in my view. So that's why I said numbers, but make no mistake about it now. If you told me I could, because I've done a lot of hitchhiking in my life. People used to hitchhike a lot when they were young like me. And I'd start out here with you right now and hitchhike back to Dallas to win a Super Bowl.
You ever hitchhiked before?
Have I ever hitchhiked? I didn't know there was another way to go, really. I hitchhiked every place I went. My buddy and I, he was in the All-Star game. I was in the All-Star game. We left Little Rock. We each had $15. All we ate was Fritos and 7-Ups. And we were gone almost a month. And we hitchhiked all the way to California. And then we came back the backside and came down by the Gulf. And we came in, never stayed in a hotel room, and hitchhiked all the way back and all the way around. And that was our spring, that was our graduation trip. And we had a good time. And we only one time did we sleep in a room, is the night before we got home.
How close do you feel like Steve is?
Excuse me, what?
I see you, Horace. Yes, sir. 15 years ago, Jerry was trying to get his money right. Yeah.
I couldn't say. I like the fact, I like where we are with our offense, and I like what we're putting together around Dak and around our principal assets on offense, if you want to look at it that way. And then it doesn't take you but a second to look. That's where we're putting our emphasis, around that. But we're acutely aware that you can do pretty well over there, and if you can't get off the field on third down, then you're not going to get where you're trying to go as a team. And we felt it last year, so that's why I'm spending as much time as I am. The fact that I'm spending as much time on this gives you an idea how much we're spending time in this draft and in free agency on the defense.
What's the latest with Brandon Aubrey?
I told y'all it's the year of the defense. I'm telling y'all, this is the year of the defense for the Cowboys. They're going to put together a defense. You watch what I tell you. And one of the reasons why they got to put together a defense, because they don't really know what's going to happen with George Pickens. I'm telling y'all now, they don't really know what's going to happen with George Pickens. And I think that's what Jerry's been trying to say. I think that was what Jerry was trying to say at the beginning. You don't know what's going to happen with George Pickens. Jerry is going to try to get more bees with honey than vinegar. He don't want to start what he did with Michael Parsons. They don't want to do any of those things. They want to keep this with George. They want to keep it not only cordial, they want to keep it friendly. Friendly, they want to keep it encouraging, because a lady told me you can get more bees with honey than vinegar. And I was kind of like, well, I don't know anybody who would even try to get bees with vinegar, but I digress. But I understand what she was saying. I believe the Cowboys are now more aware of, rather than us going to war with the player that we want to extend, let us not take out on him what we're dealing with his agent with, even though it is kind of him, but let us keep the relationship, the communication, let us keep everything friendly. Friendly, because sometimes, man, the way you treat people, man, you never know what they'll do. They might be willing to take less money just to say, you know, it's the way you treated me, man. The reason why I want to be here may take less money. I like the approach. But again, they know they don't control this in the grand scheme of things. They don't control it. They don't control it. It all depends on how George Pickens decides to proceed. And as somebody mentioned earlier, he may go to T. Higgins route. He may go to T. Higgins route. I don't even know if he has to go to T. Higgins route. I just say he just needs to tell David Mulugeta, we're not leaving Dallas, and this is what I'm willing to do, and this is what I want to do, and everything else is history.
Jerry, can you tell us about the status, what you plan to do with him, trying to sign him to a long-term deal?
Well, I think that you've heard that we want to make him the highest paid player, and candidly, we want to. We first of all think he's outstanding. Love his story. Love the fact that the story's with the Cowboys. We feel good that what we are talking about is an appreciation of what he can do for us. And so that's a way of not trying to negotiate with anything that I might say here. But we've got a good offer on the table for him.
You expect to be active in the trade market here soon. You have been super active over the course of the last 12 months. Doesn't have you guys are exploring to it.
What up, Poopy D?
I don't know that I expect it, but we have the ammunition to be good in it. And I wouldn't hesitate to be good in it if it will help our team and help the timeline that we're talking about, especially on defense. So that's that is a potential there.
Year of the defense. I'm telling y'all right now, year of the defense. They are going to go all in and out on defense. They're going to go all in. This is, I'm telling you, after the George Pickens conversation, this conversation with Jerry is incredible. It is. They're telling you exactly what they're going to do. Sub-Zero, appreciate that super chat. He says, say it again. This might be the return of the doomsday. Yeah. What up, Darren Posey? Man, I'm telling you. They're going to do some things on defense. They're going to do some things on defense. Timothy Govin said if George wants to be a Cowboy, only he can make it happen. The agent works for George. Timothy Govin, this is the point I just made. And I've been making it throughout this conversation. And even the last couple of weeks, Timothy Govin, a lot of people haven't been understanding what I'm saying. George Pickens is the only one that can stop this. David Mulugeta isn't the one that really controls this. It's George Pickens. George gets to control what George does. And it's just a matter of if George is going to take control or if George is going to tell David Mulugeta, do what you do. We don't know which one it is. And I believe that Jerry, what he was explaining, trying to go around the long way in the beginning of that conversation, Jerry was explaining that he don't know what the heck George Pickens going to do. He don't know. But I can tell you what he's doing that I'll give him credit for. Don't go to war with the player that you want to extend. Don't go to war with him. Instead, you tell him how much you want him to be here. You want him to be here. This isn't a conversation that we want you to go. You tell him. But again, it's tough. It's tough when you're talking about business because sometimes people say business never personal. But I found that business sometimes is personal. Because sometimes when you're doing business, you have to say some personal things. I'm not talking about stuff like your hair is nappy or you got, dirty fingernails or you got ashy ankles. I'm not talking about personal stuff like that, but sometimes you do have to get personal when you're in business, or you may start saying some things that somebody may take personal. You may tell somebody, hey man, you were late for some meetings. You missed some meetings. And, there was a couple of games this season where you didn't really show up. And, even with context, and one thing I've learned about people, they don't like context. But even with context, people will still use things like that on you. And then if you try to explain the context, they just say it's an excuse. So at the end of the day, business can absolutely be personal. Because you're saying personal things, or you're saying things that you say they're business, but the other person is taking that personal. And the problem is when you're talking to people, you don't get to tell them how to respond, and you don't get to tell them how to react. That's why I'm always trying to be careful how I talk to people. I try to be careful how I talk to people, and sometimes I say some things, even when I'm trying to be, respectful. I say some things that people don't like it, like the guy who was saying earlier that I'm negative. And I'm like, who would accuse me of being negative as it applies to the Cowboys? I just think the problem with people is sometimes they don't like when you're pointing out truths in matters. Because the truths don't fit what they want the narrative to be. But I'm just telling us the truth. I'm not, sometimes people think you're giving your opinion. Well, you can say I'm giving my opinion, but I'm just telling you based on facts. And so I understand these things because sometimes people will take that stuff even personal. So, we can say business never personal all we want to. But when you start negotiating with somebody and you start talking about shortcomings that they have, shoo, man, that's personal. It's personal. Bottom line, it's personal. It's personal. I'm sure there are some things that's going to be personal. But I do think that they're taking a very smart approach to how they're dealing with George Pickens. Man, you need to keep this you need to keep this all honey, as you said, because the way Steven came out throwing shots everywhere.
Because of our really great picks that we have.
With the defense, what was it that stood out to you about Christian Parker from some of the other candidates that you interviewed? How was it his job?
Okay, I really appreciate his communication skills. I like the way he communicates. I like the emphasis that he puts on education. And so we really we thought that we could have improved. One of the areas the most is communication, not necessarily between the coach and the player. Yes, between the coach and the player, but also between the players. And so there's a big emphasis on education, and I think he's got that. We've all had teachers that made us want to follow their suggestions and get us involved in what we're doing. We've all had teachers that were excellent at that. Immediately, the thing that jumped out at me was he could really not only motivate me, but he could motivate me to invest my time in work. And so I think it's good. I like the fact that he's had success there at Philadelphia, and I just think that he's got a leadership about him, and he's got enough credibility with what he's done in his young career to get that kind of attention from the players.
10 years ago.
Christian Parker is a rock star. Yeah, Jerry got him one, man. I believe Jerry got him one, but we still got to see. Still got to see it all come to fruition on the field. But everything I've heard, I think Jerry got him one. Dave Moore said, I believe all the NFL owners are watching Jerry Jones hopefully to defeat David Mulugeta. David Moore, I said this earlier. I've been saying it. I said it earlier. The owners are all watching Jerry Jones because none of them can figure out how to stop these. They can't figure out how to stop these agents. And I'm telling us now, that non-exclusive tag, get ready. Man, I'm going to tell you about what Jerry Jones did from a business perspective. Putting that non-exclusive tag, I think you're going to see more teams doing that. I think you're going to see more teams doing that. And I think you're going to see more teams willing to let players walk because they're not going to be at the mercy of these doggone agents. I think you're going to see more of it. Lil D, my uncle has said the whole time, Steven is the problem. Ron Hanna said, what I learned when it comes to context, people take things personal. They do. Because it is personal to them. It is personal. Demetrius said Jerry can't defeat the agent, but the players can. Ooh. Yeah. Yep. You're right, Demetrius. And a lot of people, Demetrius, love it, like it, or hate it. They don't understand the method to the madness of Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones would rather talk to players personally because he believes he can defeat those agents by getting better relationships with those players. And I do believe, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to tell you about me. I believe Jerry Jones was trying to engraft Micah Parsons into the family. And there are not many players that get in what I call the family. That inner circle where Jerry Jones includes you in business decisions outside of football. Jerry hooks you up with gigs in football after you're done with football. I believe Jerry was trying to put Micah Parsons in that family because I believe that Jerry has put Dak Prescott in that family. You watch what I tell you. Long after Dak Prescott is done with the Dallas Cowboys, I believe that Dak Prescott is going to be involved with the Joneses for a long time. That $60 million contract put Dak Prescott in the family. And I'm telling you, y'all better hold on to your hats. I'm not going to be surprised if we hear Dak Prescott gets an extension after this season. I'm not going to be surprised. And this is how they push Dak Prescott's money further down the road, create more salary cap space. I think they're going to extend Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is in the family. And they were trying to put Micah Parsons there. And me, I'm one of these people. I just know what Jerry can do for you off the field. Darren Woodson said something that people do not understand. Darren Woodson, I think, still kind of associates with Jerry Jones. Darren Woodson said he's more successful now, way more than he was successful on the field. You think he's just talking about personal achievements? He talking about money. He talking about money. Yeah, he talking about money. Yeah. Ron Hanna said, pure chess move. G Sub-Zero said, I agree. Jerry talked to GP prior to tagging him to let him know that he wants him to see what the league value, wants him to see what the league's value is for him. Yeah, Jerry is being real smart. And he's really trying to kind of skate as close to the line as he can. While he can't talk about numbers per se, he can still tell George Pickens how much they want him and what they're going to do. Man, I'm telling you, Jerry's smart in a lot of respects. He's smart. Big Rambowski, it doesn't matter if it's $30 million or $30,000. The salary is always personal because it tells that individual what their boss company thinks what they're worth. Shoo, Big Rambowski, you better say it again. Better say it again. That's why I say, man, you start talking about this business and never personal. Well, it is personal, though. It is personal. It is. Because you got to tell somebody why you're not willing to pay them. That's personal. Shoot, Sub-Zero said Dak will be getting a seat at the Joneses family table if he hasn't already. I agree. Ron Hanna said, I honestly believe they're going to do it as well. Gee, his contract is set up to extend, not to get from up under. I'm telling you, they made it like that, Ron, and a lot of people don't realize it.
You guys are here at the 2016 Combine and looking at Dak and things. Do you allow yourself to go look at that process and say, man, pretty lucky to get a guy like that, where you got him, how you got him, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I like to use luck in describing a lot. I can't tell you. I look back how lucky I was to live through buying the Cowboys, live through financially, not having to run out of Dallas with my tail tucked. That was fortunate. Okay, I'm not going to even pretend that I was smart enough to see that. Okay, but I did once I got in the trace. I did take it and run with it. God probably doesn't make people that make over 50% of the decisions correctly or right on 50% of the time. But what he does is make people that terminate their bad decisions quicker than the others and let their good decisions run longer than average. It's what you do with a good one or a bad decision after you see the result of it that I found the difference, because I've been on the end of a lot of bad decisions. And you got to work out it. By the same token, I've had a couple of times when I let a good decision run long. If that makes any sense. But I don't plan on making over half the decisions right, just so you're clear. I don't.
Do you feel like somebody's running out of time with that? I know you said you read out what the title was wrong on. So now with that, you have like running out of time to kind of get this thing together.
Well, I've said, but if I haven't said it lately, I need to say it. We made a big decision when we signed Dak and extended him under this contract. Highest paid player in the NFL, and I'm proud of that. But when we made that decision, we made a decision to basically step up and take everything by and through with that decision in mind. So it's no accident that we're sitting here today with the short zone defense, and if we're long anywhere, it'd be on the other side of the ball. And so that's how we got here, and that was deliberate to go do that. Now then, whatever you want to call it, we not only want him to have the kind of assets to work with on the offensive side of the ball, we learned and saw last year that counting on less than sound logic relative to having players coming off injury and them not being there. Now, I can't tell you who we would have gotten in their places, but we sure might have if you'd had the offseason like we have. You would know that you shouldn't bet on when you're void in the secondary of cohesion or cohesiveness or of skill. If you're void there, hurting there, then the idea that do you just not put pressure on them and try to knock them down, or do you try to do it with pressure? So we made decisions last year that we all were a part of, whether it be personnel or what we did. It's not Flus, but you can say Flus was involved in those decisions. It's not a player, whether he was out in the flat to cover. It's not the nickel. Our nickel, we let our nickel get out of here last year. If we have a little more appreciation for where we are at nickel or aren't at nickel, he wouldn't get out this year. Bam, that's how you learn.
I love how Jerry's admitting they made a mistake with Jordan Lewis. They made a mistake. They really did. They made a mistake with Jordan Lewis. They absolutely made a mistake with Jordan Lewis. I'm glad they're admitting it. Absolutely glad. Yeah, I agree with you, Sub-Zero. Rain Dakota Prescott Jones. Yeah, he gonna be a part of it. You're right, Timothy Govan. The player's the key. Michael could have been a Cowboy, but he lied to Jerry after he agreed on the contract, conversing with the player beforehand. Parsons and bashed Jerry Jones and crossed him. No doubt. Yep. What up, Jerome Miller? Lil D said we got another 2-year window. Parker might be gone. Dak getting older. Draft a quarterback next year early. I don't think they'll do it next year, Lil D, Texas, because I do think they like Joe Milton. I think they're going to draft a quarterback maybe in 2028. But again, you're right, Christian Parker. If the Cowboys do what we think the Cowboys are going to do, Christian Parker will be a head coach in about 4 years, because by that time the Cowboys will probably have won a Super Bowl, because I do think they're going to win a Super Bowl. I say it's going to be this year, no later than next year. The Cowboys are going to put all these chips on the table. I think they're already in the process of doing it.
Right there. So bottom line is we have the benefit of that. Now let's look at it. But those combinations of things really put us, to my mind, of where we are. Obviously, I can say no on anything. And so with that in mind, do I say no or yes? Just because I've decided to turn that over and be no, hell no. You know I don't. And I have a lot of input on what we're doing. Last year, if I had it to do over again, then we would probably looking at the tea leaves, then we probably would have done some things in free agency. Okay, there one time we had Micah, we had Lawrence, and neither one of them on the field 2 years ago at the same time, but they weren't out there at the same time. And you say, well, what were your decisions there? We had a decision made to have them both out there. Lawrence, one of the stars of the year in the NFL, and Micah both out there. And you had them. Did everything you're supposed to do, contract-wise or anything-wise. Did it do it? Of course not. So my point is, we know that that's coming. We know that those type of things happen. We've got to be readier for them than we were in the past.
Could you look at Dak? He's signed through 2028. Do you look at this as 3 years as a window that it has to happen?
Well, I've got enough sense to know that there's a nice percentage of the next 3 years that I can't see. See what I'm saying? There's a nice percent. If I knew exactly what all the situations were going to be, then you could sit down here and go over it. But we might not have Dak next year if he got hurt. Okay, so those that's the game we play. That's what we're in, and it happens all over those magnitude of things. You got to be ready for that. We could have done a better job of addressing having some of the holes that we had in our defense. We could have done a better job. That's hindsight, but we could have done a better job. You could start with understanding a little bit that if you have those holes, then you might should do a let's say a system. I'm going to use the word system. We need to anticipate having holes more. Than let's say that we did last year. We need to look ahead and say, okay, Overshawn may not be back and really might.
Jerry's talking about depth. Jerry's talking about depth. Man, I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, Jerry is dropping dimes. Sub-Zero never saw this side of Jerry. Yep. That's why I said, man, this is the repentance of Jerry Jones. This is the repentance of Jerry Jones. I love it. I love what he's saying.
Not be back until X. Or what if Ravel doesn't get his feet back under him until so much through? Some of those things we couldn't see. We couldn't see Diggs. We couldn't see a redoing of plan. We couldn't see those kinds of things that happened to us last year. This is not excuse time. I'm just saying the thing I'm criticizing me about is you're supposed to plan on that kind of stuff happening. A lot of other people did, and they had a better year than you had.
Yep. Depth. That's what Jerry Jones is talking about, depth. And I've said this before. People don't understand. Jerry never has had a problem with getting great players. Where Jerry has failed since Jimmy Johnson is he hasn't been able to put together great teams. And when you start talking about great teams, it's not about just superstars. Great teams are about the superstars. Great teams are about the players, the rookies, the second-year players. It's about the veteran players. You got a combination of young, blue-collar, and old, or veterans. And so Jerry is saying something. Did a poor job of that. Boy, I love what Jerry's talking about. Man, repentance. Brother, it's powerful.
So I can do a better job there.
We talk so much about defense. Could this be an all defensive draft?
Well, as sure as I say it is, we'll come in here with the 2 picks on offense. And so I wouldn't want to, I really wouldn't want to, I would say that we obviously, mainly because we got some of the consideration in this draft by trading key defense players. And so that I do feel a certain quid pro quo that I was anticipating when I made the trades that I made to be able to fill in with the draft picks that we got right here. And I want to emphasize again now, I'm not trying to be cute here. I don't have there's nothing in mind. But those, as we go to the draft or what have you, we're going to be looking at free agency as well in terms of the value of these picks. And we can accomplish what we should accomplish with this, where we are with these 2 number 1 picks. So if that makes any sense, I'm just saying, I don't want to sit here this year in any way and say, well, we're going to stay where we are. There's a good player there for us there. There's a good player there for us there. That's not necessarily how I see the possibilities.
What's realistic to you for this defense? Like, we can go from being one of the worst defenses.
So it sounds like they're going to probably, I know they're going to stand pat at 12. I just don't see the Cowboys trading back. The only pick I can see the Cowboys trading back on is 20. I just don't see them trading back at 12. But Jerry also said earlier, they're content at staying pat at 12 and 20. And I just think Jerry is doing the smart thing. Let teams know early that we're in the business that if you want to be at number 20, and maybe even at number 12, but I don't think they're going to do that. But if you want this pick at number 20, we'll give it to you. You're just going to have to give up something for us to give it to you. I think Jerry is doing this very smart. Just put it all out there and let people know what you got available so you don't be stuck when the time comes that you really can't make the movement that you want to make.
You guys can turn it around in one offseason and be one of the better defenses.
Yes, I can. One of the better, that may be a stretch. A defense that could support an offense the way that we played at the level last year and get us into the playoffs and give us a chance to get good after we get in the playoffs. I see that defense this year.
Yep, Jerry is thinking like many of us. Translation, Jerry is saying, and this is why I believe they got to extend George Pickens. Jerry is saying if our offense just does what it did last year, we can go to the playoffs with a mid-pack defense. I agree. If Christian Parker can just get the Cowboys to 16, even 19, they're in the playoffs. There's no doubt about it. And they're not only in the playoffs, they're probably winning a couple of rounds. Depending upon who they go against, they're winning a couple of rounds. This is the year of the defense.
I do. And like I told you, we don't do much to get better. and I'm not trying to be trite, we just don't have to do much, but better, just better, would not get it done, in my mind.
Yeah.
We've really got to come out and be sound, and I think we've addressed every phase of it, and I think we're very capable of doing not only better, but playing defense at a level that would get us in the playoffs. I believe that strongly. And I'm counting on, I'm not even making sense. I think we've got a chance to be the level or hopefully another year with Pickens, another year with Lamb Pickens, another year with Turk. Got our running back. I thought our running back last year was as incrementally important to the success we had on offense as he'd be in the top 2 or 3 as far as what he brought to the table for us on offense last year. Really glad to get him.
Your defensive tackles are set to count $64 million toward your cap as of today. What are you guys working on toward remedying that? Stephen alluded to it earlier this week.
Yeah, we'll make the adjustments that you'd think we'd make and spread that out so that we can get the players that we want to get or that we'd like to get. So yeah, it won't end up that much counting this year as counting tonight.
So spreading that out, Kenny Clark, Quentin Williams, extensions are.
That's the next move they're going to make. Osa, Kenny, Quentin. Those are the next 3 things they're going to remake. Because right now, like I said, the Cowboys can't really do any work with what they did with CD, Dak, and I forget the other player. But when they do Quentin, Kenny, and Osa, that's what's going to open up the money for the Cowboys to be able to operate in free agency the way that they want to. And also suspect they're probably going to do another player or 2.
Yeah, all of those players have a long future relative to their careers with us. And so we have the ability to extend their contract.
Yeah, you were talking extended with Quentin Williams and Kenny Clark.
I'm saying all 3 of those players. Osa as well, we have the ability to extend. I understand, but my point is the room that we have. Am I clear?
Yes, and I guess I'm talking about something different.
Yes.
Obviously.
Okay, well, you must.
Quentin Williams is a new contract, a contract extension, not necessarily spreading the money out.
I'm not differentiating that with my answer. I'm not at all. I'm saying that in speaking of those 3 interior guys, to the extent there is room to keep them and make room and not sit there and not use that room to get them help on defense, I'm not going to do that. We'll make their contracts friendly to us being able to get them help on defense in free agency if we have the opportunity.
You got to get going. Don't you take us out of luck?
What? Well, what I am, I've got a setup back here if anybody wants to. Yeah, I'm really not in a hurry here with us. We're having our coaches deal as we always have. But heck, I don't know when the last time we talked. But good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Jerry, I'm telling you, everything after the George Pickens conversation is dead on. It's dead on. And maybe even the George Pickens conversation is dead on because at the end of the day, Jerry doesn't know how that situation with George Pickens, he doesn't know how it's going to turn out. I still say George Pickens is the one that controls it. It's up to George whether or not he wants to play on a franchise tag. It's up to George of what he wants to sign for. That's all going to be up to George. The Cowboys are banking on nobody is going to come forth and offer up 2 first-round picks. Because I'm going to tell you now, I think if somebody comes up and offers 2 first-round picks for Pickens, I don't know if it matters even what they're offering. The Cowboys may absolutely take those 2 first-round picks because the Cowboys want to get better sooner than later on defense. So I wouldn't be surprised if they took those 2 first-round picks. But I also think there's another, I do think they're banking on nobody taking those 2 picks. Offering up those 2 picks. But the other part of the equation is, but if nobody steps up and does it, then that also leaves the Cowboys having to still deal with, now what do we do with George Pickens now? What do we do now? And then George will make the decision on playing on that franchise tag and doing all those things. So that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. So wherever George is, that's where this is going. Stephanie, I am not going back on what I said. I still believe 2026 is the year for the Cowboys. No later than 2027. But I think the Cowboys are going to be better suited than later because of what they're doing on defense. And if they get this thing done with George Pickens and they get this thing done with Brandon Aubrey, Cowboys are going to be hard to stop. They're going to be hard to stop. And I want them to get this thing with GP done. That's what I want. Not because of my personal issues with George. Because I know the Cowboys are better with George Pickens. I know they are better with George Pickens. I want them to get that extension done. And then I want them to go all out on defense. I want them to go all out. I do. What's going on, Andrew? I want them to go all out on defense. I think this team still has a great opportunity. I think they can get there because I think that they had a defense this year This would have been one of them years the Cowboys probably could have won. They were better offensively than all of these teams. All they needed was a defense. I think they could have put up points on anybody. I think they'll be better this coming season. I'm praying that Brian Schottenheimer gets a lot more versatile this year as far as his play calling goes. And we're really able to stand up and do some damage and be more aggressive consistently than we were this past year, because we were not aggressive consistently. But again, Cowboy fans, it's the off season. There are going to be a lot of things going on we're going to like and we're not going to like. Let's just stay the course. Let's just stay the course. We're rocking with the Cowboys, whether George Pickens is here or George Pickens is not here. Nobody is bigger than the star. So we're still rocking with the Cowboys. Again, love everything that Jerry talked about tonight, maybe with the exception of some of the George Pickens stuff, because I understand it's the business, but if it's the business, then it's going to be the business for George Pickens, and we're going to see how they do business. We're going to see how George does business, because we already know how the Cowboys are conducting their business. Let me read a few more comments, and I'm going to be out of here. Rambowski said, all we need is a top 12 to 14. I think so, too. This past season to have made a solid playoff run. I do, too. Ron Harris said, well, I said it earlier, G. Next week tells me how serious we are, because I also learned a pair of lips will say anything. Hey, you right. Moment of truth. Next week when free agency start, matter of fact, legal tampering is Monday. If I don't hear the Cowboys' name, ooh. Andrew said he just survived a death experience. Yes, sir. Pray for health. Amen. Jesse Gardner, yep, DC for life. The show. Jerome Miller said, not only will we get 2 first round, but a third compensatory pick. Do you think a team will give up that plus $35 million deals? Don't think so. I'll tell you this, Jerome, Cowboys are banking on it. Cowboys are banking on it. And I hope this all works out to where the Cowboys and George Pickens have a long relationship and we get us a couple of Super Bowls and we get back to prominence once again. All right, guys. Andrew, we'll keep you in prayer. Appreciate y'all rocking with me tonight. I'll see y'all sometime tomorrow, if not Monday. Until the next time, DC4L. God bless. Let's talk Cowboys and we talk facts. Peace.
Yo, G, bless her, bless her, bless her.